Oh, hello world. I'm your host, Data Mining Mike, and on this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about how to play the lost art of fun. Today's guest is Geoff McLachlan. He's an educator, Tedx speaker, podcaster, and leadership development consultant. Geoff has a unique approach to team building. Playing. He encourages adults to be more engaging with each other and socialization through games. Geoff is a great conversationalist and font of knowledge. I am highly confident at the end of this period of instruction, you will be able to take what you've learned and apply it to your brand or business, and that's called value. And because of that, you should like this video. Remember that sharing is caring. Subscribing is what winners do, but smashing the bell is what legends do. This channel breeds legends. But first, AI news. The chip maker, NVIDIA, has came out with a new chip that can handle numerous large language models and generative adversarial networks. It's called the NVIDIA 200 Hopper. It's a 200 tensor core. That means it can create over 1 billion images a second. Large language models like ChatGPT were trained on NVIDIA H100s, but now the H200 has came out, so if you have around $25,000 to $40,000, you too can purchase this processor. But even if you did buy one, you would still need a data scientist to create the models, or you're dead in the water. Off. All right. And we're recording. So that was a shed that you created.
That's a shed.
That's a really cool shed.
Yeah, I built from a kit that was delivered in just at the very, very end of October, first part of November. And they're like, by the way, you've only got 30 days to build this thing before the warranty goes off on it. So you better do that. Oh, my gosh.
Well, cool. It's kind of like the old Craftsman homes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I miss those things. Those things were built to precision. Yeah. They were perfect. That's the way we should build things. Not my house. My house was not built that way.
Well, we're live, so.
Oh, we're live.
Yeah,
okay, we're right.
So
well, I'm going to grab my drink then.
Yeah, go ahead. So tell the world about you. Tell the world about Geoff.
Oh, man. Well, it started off on a warm summer's evening 47 years ago.
Okay.
I grew up here in Coeur d'Alene in Liberty Lake, Otis Orchards, Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, and have had a phenomenal experience growing up in this area. I was very lucky to grow up when I did, where I did, to who I did. Mm-hmm. And so 1942, my great-grandfather bought 2 miles of beachfront and 300 acres on Liberty Lake, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
At the time, the nearest building to where he lived was 16 miles away in downtown Spokane. Mm-hmm. And that was it.
Wow.
There was none of this was here.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine the change as it's grown, as they grew up and as I've grown up. Like, it's crazy. So I lived 10 minutes from my grandparents across the river in Otis Orchards, and there used to be nothing from our house all the way to my grandma's place except for the golf course and a single gas station. And now there's everything that's there. And so I got to grow up in a pretty magical time where you had a bike and you had freedom. And so had the run of a little small town. And at 11 years old, I got my first job, which was changing pipes on for a farm. And at 11 years old, they gave us the keys to a truck and said, hey, by the way, you got to get to that field. So here's the keys, go, drive. And we got to run around town in this little 1930s, Dodge or Ford, whatever it was. I can't remember. I do remember it was a stick shift. So we had to learn how to drive that. There'd be 5 or 6 of us in the cab, team driving, which was an adventure in itself. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, just don't get caught by the police. We're like, there's police? We have police here? What? So grew up causing minimal damage and problems to other people and just running around causing mayhem and having fun. And so it was a magical time to grow up. And so that's kind of where I got all my chops for everything that I do, which is now professional speaking and facilitating for large groups and taking people through play and having fun and making the world a better place and helping to connect human beings to each other, because that's gotten harder and harder to do as technology is developed. And technology is awesome. It's great. It does a lot of really cool things. But at the same time, it's an actual barrier, a physical barrier to human connection, where I was lucky enough to grow up in a time where we didn't have that. So there's no record of anything that I did in middle school, high school, and early college. Thank heavens.
Isn't that interesting how all that paper went to database and it just got lost?
Yeah.
And if it's so old, we really don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it the 1900s. Mm-hmm. When I tell people, like, I do a lot of work with students and kids in like middle school, high school. And I say, I was born in the 1900s. And they're like, oh, that's like, dude, did you ride like a horse and carriage? It's like, well, I had horses and we had a carriage, so I guess so. I don't know. But that was just kind of where I grew up. Like people had farms, people had animals. So yeah, we got to grow up that way. So I guess technically, yeah, I was the old school 1900s. Like, it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, technology is awesome though, because it can connect you. Now I've got friends all over the world that I've never met in person, but I've interacted with online, chatting, gaming, that kind of stuff, where I would never have met any of those people if it wasn't for technology. So it's this weird juxtaposition of old school, new school, old world, new world. Where have we been? Where are we going? And how do we maintain those connections with other human beings? And that's for me is like fascinating.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of people are it's hard for them to adjust and to understand. It's hard for me to really get a grip of where the entertainment and the media sphere is going and how we as humans connect. So what you mentioned technology as being a barrier, and I see that too, like a social shield. Like people will throw their phones up in public, and that almost means don't talk to me.
Yep.
How dare you walk over and harass me while I am on this 2 inches of screen?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I've been guilty of that as well. Mm-hmm. I travel a lot, and in airports, I just kind of sometimes at the end of a long week or something, I just want to veg out. I just want to like be entertained, and I'll put on my headphones and I'll bury my face in a phone, and nobody will talk to you. But if you go to any airport bar, any airport restaurant, and you sit down and you put your phone down, and you just start looking around, people will come and find you. Because people are desperate for that connection. Even if it's a complete stranger that they're never going to see again, for those moments, they're connected in an airport situation where you're going, oh, I don't know, you're going to make your flight? I don't know. Everything's backed up again. So, but you talk and you immediately find the things you have in common, which is so crazy because when you put your head in the phone and the whole world disappears. Your whole world is that 2 inches of screen, right? Mm-hmm. And so it is a barrier to connection. It can enhance connections that you already have because of the ease of availability, but that can also be challenging, right? It's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. So if people can always get a hold of you, it makes your time less of a commodity, when my thoughts are that your time is like the number one commodity that you have, because you only have so much of it on the planet. You only have so much energy. And so what you're putting your energy into, whether that's in-person communication, having conversations, meeting face-to-face, doing things together, versus, I can spend time on a phone where I'm not really getting anything done, but I can be cultivating relationships for people that I don't have physical access to. Mm-hmm. So it's a really interesting, conundrum. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But you mentioned creativity, and I am, I'm probably one of the very few people who hasn't played a lot on ChatGPT or AI platforms. I should say I haven't played as much as I should have. For me, I should turn it into play and see what I can get it to do. Because I don't actually, technology is not my jam. It's not the thing I'm good at. I have lots of family that are really good at it. And anytime I have problems, I just send it over to them, be like, how do I do this? Help me out. I don't have the time or patience to try and figure out the technology of things. And so ChatGPT, everybody was like, dude, you got to check this thing out. And I was like, no, it's going to turn into Terminator. You just watch. Some of us born in the 80s remember Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not a real human, right?
Yeah.
And so I can dive down the conspiracy hole of that. But the conspiracy, and I don't even think it's a conspiracy, what I'm seeing is that because people are so entertained all the time, the lack of boredom is stifling their creativity. And so I am really curious in the next 20 years to see what happens in Hollywood, entertainment, writing, the kind of materials that people are going to start putting out, because we're already seeing a lot of redos, right? You're seeing, a movie that somebody made 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they're remaking it today. Because have they run out of creative ideas? Are they just completely out of the ability to produce something new and novel? I mean, we have the same story threads, but we've gone through thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Is creativity dead?
That's a good point. Is creativity dead?
Yeah.
How much of your thinking are you willing to give up?
Right. Yeah. And every time you put into that system, it's taking that, right? And it's accumulating a massive amount of data. And it's funny because if you look online, I can always tell what articles have been written by AI. As of right now. Now in 5 years, maybe in 1 year, I might not be able to tell. But right now, I can tell which articles have been written by AI and who's actually taken the time to handwrite something or like sit at a computer and type it out. There's a feeling versus simple facts, statements, perfect grammar and punctuation, And so, I don't know, it'll be really interesting in the next 20 years to see what happens in creativity and entertainment and how people produce new games and new theories, new science that's coming out. Science is really a cool one that I think actually almost every single industry is going to be affected by AI. It's going to be affected by how creative people can be in the industry to change with the times. Because it's not about like keeping up. It's about adjusting. How do you take the technology that's available and make it work for your industry, whatever it is? And so education's going to change. Hollywood's going to change. How we do a lot of industrial jobs are going to change. Military is probably going to change, and training people, how people learn how to do things differently is going to change. And that's all going to be due to AI. And I'm not an AI expert at all. I just see that coming because I'm like, oh, kids are already doing it. They're already plugging into the system. You get virtual reality right now. I've played on it and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I can go into a boxing match and I can go box 3 or 4 rounds with somebody and I'm sweaty and tired. That's exercise. And if you can get kids like, okay, well, let's learn how to do something on the virtual reality, and they have that experience, their mind, it's real. And as it gets more and more realistic to your visual cortex, now you're going to go, whoa, this is insane, which is why you can like stand on the edge on the virtual reality, right? And you go step off and you think you're falling, even though your feet are flat on the ground. You still feel the sensation of that drop. And so as that progresses and gets better, like the stuff that we're going to be able to do and see, how's it going to affect the travel industry? How's it going to affect tourism? How's it going to affect how people interact? This is the big one for me. How are people going to interact with people from other cultures who actually physically show up? And as it makes the world incredibly smaller, does it actually make the world that much larger because people now can stay in their own sphere, in their own little bubble, and never really leave and interact with other people? Like it's a connection conundrum. And yeah, just things I lie awake at night sleeping or thinking about rather than sleeping.
I'm glad you think about it.
Yeah.
Because we are exponentially driving in faster to new times. And it's creepy when I notice how, well, there's a lot I can talk about on how technology trains the user and how you can't even stop at a stoplight without looking around and seeing somebody on their fucking phone. Oh. It's like, dude, drinking and driving kills less people than texting and driving. Yeah. And you guys just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They passed legislation to make it a law so you can't do it, and still they don't give a fuck. Overwhelmingly, the whole public did for the entire good, and they're like, fuck it, I don't care. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that, but I'll do it because I know I can get away with it at the stoplight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I even see police officers.
Oh, they don't give a fuck either.
Yeah, they're on their computer. They're like typing and driving, and like their eyes are down. They're fully like in the computer system, which I understand. I have friends that are cops. They're like, yeah, we're doing reports. I'm like, well, is there other time to do that? I mean, are you always on? Are you always, or sometimes are you just waiting for can you not do it when you're not driving? Like that, the distracted driving. I'm telling you right now, I would pay $1,000 a year to be able to have a license that allowed me to like slap people who are like texting and driving, or who are on their phones and driving.
Fun.
Do you know how big a revenue builder that would be for the city or state? Like,
That'd be funny.
freaking huge. No, I got a license for it. It's okay. I'm allowed to slap you. Sorry.
Slap you. That would be funny.
I would get in trouble with that. I'd abuse that power.
Yeah, you'd probably. Yeah, you get.
Yeah.
Well, now they're taking Homer Simpson choking Bart Simpson out of The Simpsons.
What?
Yeah, they straight cut that out. There's so much stuff that they cut out.
Oh man,
a lot of things have changed. I bet your parents might have spanked you.
Yeah, they probably. Yeah, they did. I remember a wooden spoon. There was a wooden spoon present all the time.
No wooden spoons in this house. To her house to this day.
Yeah. Well, she broke one on me, and I laughed, and that was the last time I got spanked. And then she was like, "Now you're grounded," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Now just go down to your room." I'm like, "For how long?" She's like, "Until I tell you to leave." I'm like, "Fine." Mm-hmm. And then after like 30 minutes, I was like, "Can I come out now?" And she's like, "No, you're grounded." I'm like, "Well, wait. How long am I grounded for?" And she's like, "As long as I feel like you need to be grounded." And I was like, this is horrible. But now if I tell my kids, go to your room, they're like, okay. Cool, great. And they'll just go and like get on a computer or something. And I'm like, nope, no computer. They're like, what are you going to do, stop me? Yeah, I own that thing. I paid for it. It's mine. I'll just unplug it. And they're like, you can't do that. Yeah, I can, because it's my computer. I own it. It's not yours. You get to borrow it. So it's one of those things where, yeah, that's like that craziness of like technology and how it works and what people are doing with it. We had the technology of the wooden spoon.
Yeah, that's for sure. Check a wooden spoon. So have you thought about, and I think about it because you're driving to the same conclusions I've been driving to, the same conclusions other people like Elon Musk and others have been driving to. Maybe we're in simulation theory.
Oh, that's a fascinating theory, right?
Yeah, I don't think it really conflicts with religion. I think it kind of complements it if you really think about it.
Right. If you watch The Matrix and you've read, any of Thomas Gibson's stuff, like he's brilliant. He actually came up with the Matrix theory long, long ago, which is like in the 70s. And it's like you think about it, and biologically, if you look at the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy. And so if you think about pain, physical pain, if you're hooked up to an MRI or a SPECT machine, you can actually see what part of your brain lights up. So you hit your thumb with a hammer, boom, your anterior dorsal, something central cortex. I'm not really good with all the brain names because there's a lot of them, but part of your brain lights up. Well, when you're in social pain or you're thinking about being left out of something, the same part of your brain lights up. And so social pain, physical pain are like the same thing. And so your brain, again, doesn't recognize the difference between reality and fantasy. So the thought of, are we in an actual simulation where for us, we think it's real, but then we start to realize that maybe it's not real. And then your brain goes, whoa. And it's like looking in the mirror that looks in the mirror that looks in the mirror that looks in the mirror. And you start going down the rabbit hole, and it's enough to like kind of like make your mind go, what are you doing? And at that point, you have to think, well, what is real? What is reality? Because for a person, a human being, the frequency and intensity of which you experience things is your reality. And if you're experiencing in your mind any number of things, whatever that is, that's your reality. Now, is it the shared cultural reality that we live in as communities? It might be different than that, in which case you say, well, wait a minute, is your simulation different than mine? Because if you think, if we're all in the same simulation, would they not want the simulation to be perfect, like i.e. the Garden of Eden, where everything is perfect and everybody gets along? If that's the case, then why aren't we there? For me, I look at it and go, well, it's an interesting theory, and I don't know enough to say whether or not it is true or not, but I think about why do human beings, why do we have the need for a hierarchy? Why do we have the need for an afterlife? Why do we have the need for purpose? Is the technology so advanced, wherever this is coming from, that they've already thought of all those things, because, I mean, we just thought about them right here. Mm-hmm. I'm sure somebody that's been on the planet or been in the universe for hundreds of millions of years would probably think of all those experiences because they've gone through them as a species, right? So then you get into aliens, and then you get into like so many different things where you go, what could that possibly be? And again, and I just had this conversation today. I was talking to a school, and we had the question of, when kids are young, when we're young as human beings, as a species, we always ask the question, why? That's like the most common question kids ask. Why? Why do I have to do this? Why does that matter? Why are you saying what you say? Why? And it drives us crazy. But as you start to get a little bit older, they stop asking why. So my question is, why? Why do kids stop asking why? Is it because as adults we've said, stop asking that? I told you that because I told you that, and that's the end of the story. Stop asking why. Or is it because we stop losing the interest or the curiosity in how things work? And so for me, that's a big question. And it's usually generally 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, somewhere in that area where we stop questioning things, where we've been in the system long enough, we've been plugged into the system. Again, simulation theory, you've been plugged in long enough that now you stop questioning, you just do. And now you're part of the system. And so where do we go from there? Where do we go as a species? Where do we go for education? Where do we go for creativity, for entertainment, for the actual ability to think outside the box when we've been trained to think inside the box, to act and to be a certain way? And that's, I don't know, it's fascinating. It's a whole world that you can dive into and never get out of.
Yeah, that question, why? I've met Simon Sinek, and I talked to him many years ago. It was like 2018. I went to this convention. It's called the Student Veterans of America, and he was a guest speaker there. This was like kind of before he was bigger. And he did his whole thing about the why. And I talked to him because I managed to weasel my way up, and I talked to him. And I had done this interrogation course when I was in the Marines. Well, they're like, you're not interrogators, you're tactical debriefers. You don't use coercion, or you don't make threats and all that violence and stuff. Like, okay, whatever. So I did that, and they taught us that the good way to ask a question is who, what, when, where, how, but never, ever ask why.
Interesting.
Never ask why. And why? Because why is offensive. You are a battered child to it from the children. And it means justify yourself with logic now before I condemn you.
Yep. There's judgment.
And Simon Sinek, I told him that, and he said, that's why I use it, because why is offensive. Find your why. Like, okay, whatever, man. You're like, cool. I see where he's coming from. Yeah. But you're right. That term why. But you also brought up another good point. School is a socialization process where they train kids in this box-shaped room like Pavlovian dogs to a bell. So what would you like to see about that changed?
Oh, okay. So I'm a school teacher. I'm a certified school teacher. I've taught kindergarten through 12th grade. Started off, graduated from junior college, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and was like, I'm not going to go to the next level of college until I know what I want to do, because I don't want to spend the money. And my dad happened to be working at a local high school and said, hey, we've got this job position open. It's you're a special ed paraprofessional. You're going to be working with these special needs kids, but we need somebody. Just come on in. I said, okay, cool. So I came in, auditioned. It's not the right term. Interviewed for the job with literally no experience. Absolutely nothing. I'm 21 years old, and I'm like, I don't know anything except for I like to do fun stuff, and I like to hang out and have a good time. And I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life, so might as well make some money. Which, by the way, it was like $8 an hour. And they're like, great, you're hired. And so started working in special education, had some of the most awesome experiences, great staff, phenomenal students. Like, I was really, really lucky to be, again, where I was when I was. My dad was a teacher there. I was there. My younger brother was a senior at the high school, and my little sister was a freshman. So 4 of us were at, 4 out of 6 of us were at this same school every single day, 5 days a week.
So you were one of 6.
I was I'm technically one of 4.
Okay.
But yeah, mom and dad, 6 of us all together.
Okay, gotcha. The
Yeah.
whole family
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And my mom was a teacher as well. So she taught kindergarten. So I ended up working in special education for a couple of years, had a phenomenal experience, absolutely loved it, learned so much about human behavior and human connection. And they ended up saying, Geoff, you probably should go get your teaching degree because you should be a teacher. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up leaving that position, going back to school, and went to Eastern Washington University and entered the education program. And I found that as a 23-year-old who had 2 years working in special education, I had more classroom experience than some of my professors. And I was very intrigued when I would ask them why. You're telling me this. Why would you do that? I'm like, what experience do you have that tells you that's a smart choice? Because you're talking like, great, you've got book knowledge. You've got a very deep, you're a doctor.
That's a good way to phrase it. What experience do you have?
What experience do you have? And when I actually pressed one of my teachers, one of my professors, who was just a little bit older than me. I mean, I think she was 3 years older than me, and she'd already had her doctorate. And I thought, you're trying to teach me how to do a job. What experience do you have in that field? And she was like, well, I've done a lot of work there. And I said, okay, well, tell me exactly what. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, so I can tell you that I worked from this date to this date in this school with these students. I had this many students. I had these different diagnoses. I can tell you which IEPs I filled out, which 504s I filled out. I can tell you all the information about these students because I worked with them every single day. Where did you work? For how long? And what did you do? And I remember she was really cute. She was a really cute professor. And I liked giving her a hard time. I kind of felt bad a little bit, but at the same time, I felt like, I should probably be doing this to all my professors. And she finally admitted, she's like, well, I worked for 2 weeks in a school. And I was like, wait, you worked
Did you really, though?
Did you really? Yeah. Did you really work at a school? Because you're only there for 2 weeks. Like, that doesn't seem like a real work. And then she worked in an outpatient clinic. And I said, those are 2 very different things. Those are not the same thing. And you're trying to teach us about one when you've only had experience with the other. And I said, so when she then, to her credit, she would say, this is what the research says. Geoff, in your experience, what have you seen? And so she started incorporating me in the experiences that I had because I was a little bit older.
Wise.
Yeah, I was really smart. And I was like, oh, she's really smart. And so I got to share, like, here's experiences. Like, here's real life things that you're going to deal with if you're in a special education classroom because this is just what we're dealing with at that time. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's great. But the education system itself is meant to put us in that box. It is meant to make us a good little citizen, a good slave to this is what you do. You go to work for the next 40 years, you get your watch, you retire, you die in 15, and you're not a suck on society. Well, that's not going to cut it anymore. That's not going to work because if AI is taking over or machines are going to start doing a lot of the menial labor jobs that people have done in the past, we have to have something more. And it's not just entertainment. It's not just being entertained. Entertainment is great. I love entertainment, but this is an opportunity for humanity to be incredibly creative, to be incredibly connected in a way that they haven't been in a century because we no longer are going to have to fight for everyday survival in terms of like hunting and gathering and getting food and procuring warmth and all the things that we've done for the last 150, 200, 300, 4,000 years, however long we've been on the planet, because of technology. And so as education changes, I would love to see it as how do we connect as human beings and how do we find the things that we are passionate about that drive humanity forward? How do we contribute to each other in a way that is meaningful to us personally and helps the group as a whole? And so that goes back all the way to tribal humans. Like, everybody had a job to play. Everybody had a part. And you were expected to do things because you were a part of the tribe. And those tribal feelings are not going to go away. It's why we still have conflict. It's why we still have us versus them, because we want to belong. We want to be a part of a tribe. We want to be a part of a community. And so if we have those communities and we understand that this little micro community, wherever we're at, can be great and can positively affect other communities, and it's no longer us versus them, it's us with them together. We just happen to have this little section right here. And if you want to come over and play and have fun, cool, great, come on over. Now, if you come over and try and like take over and like force us into your way of thought and feeling and doing things when that's not what we're used to, that's where we have conflict. And so if we understand and recognize people's autonomy, and at the same time that the world is a lot bigger place than just us, that we have a part to play and everybody matters, and at the same time, you don't really matter that much.
That's true.
It's really hard. It's a conundrum, right?
Yeah. It brings up a point. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen it. You know, the first thing I thought of is like, how do we, as a national security issue, how do we not raise a society of pussies?
Oh, I got to take my hat off for that. The hat's off, man. Yeah. That is, I honestly, education has to change, less inside, and we have to do more stuff outside. We have to do hard things. Mm-hmm. We have to engage with nature. And it's so funny, like so many people, climate activists, and like, oh, we got to save the world. How much time are they actually spending outside? How much time are they spending online?
No,
right?
The average fisherman knows more about the fish biology than the activists.
Absolutely. The hunters, like you look at, you want to know about people, you want to know what's happening in a wildlife population, go talk to the people that are subsisting on that or who are hunting it for sport, because they will tell you, because those are the people that are actually spending money on helping the environment.
The real boots on the ground scientific observation of the game.
Absolutely. And personally, I spend a lot of time outdoors. I've got I have a German short hair pointer.
Yeah.
That's
a good dog.
Oh, great dog.
God.
Oh, wow. She's phenomenal. I love her. She's a spaz.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, she's actually in daycare right now.
Okay.
So I finally found a daycare that she can go to, because we've gotten kicked out of multiple daycares.
Yeah, German short hairs. They're a bird dog. Man.
They're a hunter. They're
always hunting.
Always. She's got more kills than I do.
Yeah.
Like far more. She's a stone cold killer, but she's also an absolute sweetheart. She's, but no, that's the thing, is I have to take her out. I have to engage her mentally and physically. So I used to, before I had her trained finally, because I was like, I'm at the edge of my knowledge of how to train a dog. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up taking her to a professional trainer for 6 weeks. And he goes, you have to engage her mentally. And because she is a hunter, you have to engage that part of her nature. Because if you deny that, she's just going to destroy stuff. That's all she's going to do. Because you're saying, don't be who you are. And so as human beings, who are we as a species? Look at our biology, our physiology. Look at how we're built as human beings. We are not meant to be sedentary, sitting down indoors all the time behind a screen. It's not what we are meant for. We are meant for wandering. We are meant for wonder. We are meant for exploration. We are meant for doing hard things, for adapting, for overcoming, for getting creative in how to solve a problem, to actually have a goal and go for it and get it. If you take those things away, we're just another simian being, right? We're a giant, semi-intelligent ape. But an ape is actually far more useful than we are, because they know how to work within their environment. They know how to, hunt and gather, and they take care of each other as a community. We've lost that. Mm-hmm. We have to plug into that biology of what we are as a species. And so going back to education, more time outside, explore, discover, fall down, do things that are semi-dangerous, not totally dangerous, but have a certain amount of risk, because that's how we learn how to take risks safely. Mm-hmm. You learn through experience. Now, I don't have to experience everything to know that I don't have to go, heroin, that's pretty bad. I know that because I've seen the effects of it. I don't have to go out and experience that to know that, mm-hmm. right? But I also have to know that I have to keep my eyes up and my head on a swivel if I'm going to go cross the street and it's 4 lanes of traffic and people are going 40 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. I have to be aware of general physics. I have to be aware of how fast I can move. I have to know distance and how long it takes an object to get from there to here. And that is all through experience that most kids from the 1900s experienced on the playground. Mm-hmm. And our playgrounds have changed drastically. Oh, yeah. Drastically. Like,
they used to be like American Ninja Warrior.
Now right.
It's like nothing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like we had
Zappy slides.
Oh, the Zappy slides. Yeah. They are Zappy slides. Mm-hmm. I've not been shocked harder than that. Mm-hmm. Not even grabbing an electric fence when I was a kid. Yeah. Like, that wasn't even close to like going down one of the big slides or trying to run up it with your shoes on and then touching like metal bar at the top. You're like, yeah, it messes with you. But it's also safe. Mm-hmm. And you can fall off of something and bounce versus fall into wood chips or gravel or hard packed earth. Mm-hmm. And then you learned a lot of important lessons. How to hang on. How high are you willing to go? What's your risk tolerance? What can you do? If you can hang on to something for so long, how do you hang on a little bit longer? You have to practice it. You have to be in the moment. You have to be doing the thing. So do the thing, you have the power, right? If you wanted to get better at the monkey bars and like going across back and forth, you couldn't just jump up there and go back and forth. You had to jump up there and you had to learn how to swing. And you had to learn how to like move your body so you could reach the next bar. You didn't just know how to do that. And so that physiological piece of how as human beings are we operating in a day-to-day basis in the environment that we're in, that's the outdoor environment, that's the indoor environment. How are we doing these things? And what does it mean for us as human beings? So I look at people who sit down for work, right? And they say, "Oh, sitting's the new smoking." Yeah, it is.
Shit, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now I felt like intuitively I was doing something wrong, and now you're telling me.
No, it is.
Okay, no, you're right. I believe you.
Yeah, it's
sitting
really,
is the new smoking because look what it does.
Yeah,
to people.
And disconnection and sitting is the new smoking. Mm-hmm. It's realistically, you can look at groups of people that live typically. There's a series on Netflix, the Blue Zones or something like that, about people that live to the areas with people who live to be the 100 the longest, most people that live there, and they have a couple things in common. Number one is they're outdoors a lot. Number two, strong communities and connections. That's about it. You can take food, you can take cigarettes, alcohol use, that kind of stuff. Those things kind of go out the door when you have the outdoor time and the community connection. Now, I'm not saying go out and smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, but I am saying if you're missing connection, Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General of the United States, actually said that lack of connection is about the same as smoking 18 cigarettes a day. That's almost a pack of cigarettes a day. If you don't have deep human connections. That's pretty substantial.
Oh, I believe it, man. I was losing my damn mind during COVID. Losing my damn mind. Whether it was like not being able to see somebody's face, or because I got my own thoughts on it. I think it was all a social experiment, but that's just me. Yeah, man, affluenza. That's a real thing. That's something that I try to open Americans' eyes as to, is that we are incredibly affluent. This is a Disneyland fantasy. You mentioned you look both ways before you cross the street. That's true. And in an affluenza society, you wouldn't even think about Like for example, when my kids come with me, there's the flying squirrel
over
there.
Yep.
And they were like, we want to go walk with the flying squirrel. And we want to go walk to the flying squirrel. And and there was a part of me that pinged like, no, it's a dangerous road right there. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's affluenza. There's actually a really safe walking thing.
Right. It's got the lights and the flashy lights, and it's got a crosswalk sign. And
and I'm finding myself like coddling, like the coddling of the American child and what that's doing to people. So our government, I guess what it goes back to is our government says that the youngest age that we can use kids for warfare is 18. Mm-hmm. And now that I have an 18-year-old, like when I was 18, I was like, I'm ready.
Right.
But now I think maybe you weren't. I mean, I'm just lucky.
Right. But now we have more brain research.
We do.
Now we have the brain research.
25-year-olds.
25.
Not fully developed.
Exactly.
And we're still taking 18-year-olds.
Exactly. So that for me changes things. I would love to see education go longer. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily like, okay, you're 18, you graduated from high school, now you're going to go to college and incur massive amounts of debt.
Yeah.
I would like to see us slow down the education process to where you are at 20 years old when you're graduating from high school. When you're going, okay, well, maybe not high school. Maybe you're like, okay, 18-year-olds, you're out of high school. You're technically, air quoting, an adult. Mm-hmm. But now let's look at what does it mean to be an adult? Mm-hmm. What does it mean as we start to take away the safety net of education, the classroom, the community that you're used to, and we're going to start saying, you got to pay taxes, you're going to have to live on your own. What does that mean? Because they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you what it's like to have to cook your own damn meal every single day for the rest of your freaking life.
No.
Like, that was not something that you're trained for. What if we took an extra 2 years and helped students adjust to what is it like to be an adult? What would that process look like? What would it be like? And everybody's going to go, oh, well, you're going to start to teach morals and values. Well, okay, great. What's wrong with teaching morals and values? What's wrong with teaching people do what's right? Like, what's wrong with saying values? We have them as a society. We've literally got documents that say these are our values. What if because I can tell you right now, what percentage of 18-year-olds graduate from high school and know the Constitution? Virtually none of them.
I didn't.
I sure as hell didn't. I didn't know I hadn't ever read the Constitution from start to finish until I was in my 30s. Like, I had no clue. And I looked at it and went, okay, cool. The Bill of Rights. I mean, we look at the affluence that we have as a country, and yet the disservice that we're doing to young people by just saying, all right, cool, you graduated, now go on your own, do stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a huge disconnect. And it's not that we want to raise a generation of pussies. We actually want to raise a generation of people. Here's where I get a little fiery and give me my rocking chair and set me on the front porch, mm-hmm. and I turn into a crotchety old Scottish dude. Mm-hmm. That's my thing, right? If you don't have the ability for violence, you're not like a pacifist. You are literally just useless. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you don't have the capacity, like, you're completely useless.
That's what Jordan Peterson says.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you have to have the capability of violence, because if somebody comes after my family, I will fight tooth and nail. I will tear somebody limb from limb, and I will beat them to death with their own body parts, mm-hmm. if that's what it takes to make my family safe. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've gotten away from that as a society of saying a dangerous human is dangerous. No, a dangerous human is useful. A dangerous human who knows how to control their emotions is very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten away from that. We've stopped saying it's okay to be a man. It's okay to be aggressive. We've said, oh, you can't be aggressive. Too aggressive. No, don't be aggressive. I've been fighting with my boys for a long time for them to be more aggressive, because I say the world needs that. The world needs mm-hmm. heroes. The world needs people to step up into a place that says, I'm going to go to a place that's uncomfortable. physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually for myself, for the good of society. And we're losing that warrior spirit. Mm-hmm. And if we have, we've emasculated boys to where the point where they're like, you can't be a boy anymore. And they're afraid to.
Like, I'm a woman. Who are you to tell me what a woman is?
Well, there's a thing called biology, X and Y chromosomes, XX chromosome, like those things where I'll probably get in trouble at some point. And if you're an adult and you have a fully functioning brain and you're like to the point where you're like, I am so miserable as who I am that I need to be somebody else. Yeah. I support you in that. But if you're saying a 6-year-old has the right to say if they're a boy or a girl, they don't even know what that means.
Dude, now they're trying to make it. I don't know if they passed it. Like if your child says, I want gender reassignment surgery, you have to take them to the doctor or you're going to get child abuse charges.
Yeah, you can just move to Idaho.
Yeah,
we don't do that. There's a reason why Idaho is one of the number one destinations in the country right now.
For real. And it also brings a whole nother slew of this, I'll use the term New Hollywood, that I've been getting tapped into loosely. Because a lot of these Californians move up here. Yeah. And they all say it with such, like, shame, and they should say it with shame. Like, we're from California. Like,
we're California.
Like, I hope you like the winners. I hope you, like, bring your shit up here. Yeah. I met a lot of them in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene is going nuts. I got my Danny. He's a pacemaker bodybuilder. Anyway, he's a HVAC dude. He does HVAC. He says it's harder to get things approved for code in Coeur d'Alene than Spokane. You can get away with a lot more in Spokane than you can with Coeur d'Alene. Really? And that's because of the damn all the Californians and shit.
Well, I will say, I've got a lot of friends from California that have moved to Coeur d'Alene, and I completely understand why. I mean, I do a lot of work in California. Yeah, I love the weather.
Yeah, I used to live there.
It's
Oceanside.
Oh, dude, Oceanside's awesome, man. Yeah. If you never had to leave Oceanside, it'd be great.
Have to leave it,
right? Yeah. But if you have to go to LA, you're like, shit, that's a whole day, like an entire day of your life that is going to be mostly wasted in traffic. Yep. And millions of people that you're going to have to deal with, literally millions of people. And for what? A couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours maybe, and then you got to drive back in traffic. Like, it's a mess. It's just a mess. California it really is a beautiful state, and it's got a lot of great attributes, but it's also been run politically poorly, and like they have so many natural resources where they could be like tapping into like way more of the outdoors, way more of like how do we get along, like surfing, the beach, like all these things. But you also have to be aware that the infrastructure and traffic and places to stay and all those things, it takes time and money and effort. And to go slow is to go fast. To build like a utopian city, the city on a hill, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But when you have an influx of people, and let's face it, America, still the greatest country in the world. People are still literally dying to get into our country. And people that go, oh, America sucks, man. I've been here my whole life. It sucks. Go someplace else.
Yeah, go someplace else.
Go someplace else and see what it's like. Go to a third world country. Yeah. Heck, go to a second world country and see what happens. See what it's like. And then come back and say that this country sucks. Because people are literally dying to get in. People are sacrificing their lives. They're risking their children's lives to get here because it's still the land of opportunity. And that's another thing is like, work and finding employment and finding a good job where, I mean, gosh, right now in Coeur d'Alene, you can start working at McDonald's for $19 an hour.
I know.
You know how much they pay a police officer? $18 an hour. Why on earth would you want to do that? Why on earth would you want to potentially risk your life when you could work at McDonald's for more?
Yeah, everything's paying 18.
Yeah. It's just crazy. And so like Coeur d'Alene, it's a beautiful town. It is blowing up. I'm lucky I bought a house there 20 years ago, and thank God I did, because there's no way I would be able to afford a house now.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, I look at the average house price. The average house price I think now is $750,000 for a house in Coeur d'Alene. I'm like, I don't make $400,000 a year, which is what I would need to afford a house that's $750,000 to $800,000.
Yeah.
That's not something that's in my budget. And I'm like, I'm lucky that I was where I was, when I was, with whom I was, and that I had the means. I had the family that said, yeah, we'll loan you a down payment. Like, that was the only reason I was able to buy a house. Because my grandparents gave me $7,000. Yeah, that was my down payment, $7,000 for a house. But it's just fascinating. And then it goes back to the politics. We just had a vote yesterday for city council, for the mayor of like some of the outer little towns, and for school board stuff. And I will tell you that right now on the ballot, there were a number of people who had literally just moved to the area within less than 2 years. And they're running for school board positions and positions on the city council.
I know. Fuck them.
And they're from California. Like, I'm Idaho.
California.
No, you're not. You are not Idaho. You're from California. You haven't even lived here a full 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Like last year, relatively mild winter. When you give us a real winter, survive that, and then tell me you're Idaho. Like, but don't come here and try and change the culture, And yes, I grew up in North Idaho when we were like literally fighting the neo-Nazis. Like, we'd fight them in the streets. We'd have brawls. We would have like literally go down and punch each other out.
Hayden's a unique place.
Hayden's a very unique place. I had a friend who was a precursor to the UFC.
Okay.
Like, dude, just a freaking animal. I mean, this guy was brutal. I watched him in a pre-UFC, wasn't UFC yet, fight. Went down to Portland to watch him fight, and he went to tap gloves with the guy, and the guy just, boom, punched him, broke his nose. I literally saw his nose go across the side of his cheek.
Damn.
And, I mean, he's just like, and he immediately gets back up, keeps fighting, ends up getting the guy in like this massive arm bar, and passes out from blood loss. Yeah, that's how brutal it was from his nose. And he gets up. He's so disappointed. He's just like, oh, I should have won. I should have beat him. I'm like, dude, the guy sucker punched you. Like, come on. And we go back into the back room, and he looks at his nose in the mirror and goes, holy shit. Grabs it, and he just goes, puts it back in place. And I'm like, that guy's tough. We go out to breakfast one day in Hayden, and we happen to see Butler, like, who was the leader of the white supremacist movement out there. And we're like, let's mess with him. Come on. Dude, he's right there. It's like you and me. Like, you're super tough.
Trolling.
Like, yeah, we're like
shit.
preacher, like old school. Like, we're going to mess with, but he's got like 10 guys and like a bunch of women. We're like, I think I could take 2 or 3 of them. You got at least 5. Come on. He's like 80. Like, come on, let's mess with him. And he gets finished with his breakfast, and they all start to leave, and we leave, and we're like, we're following him out, and we're like, getting ourselves pumped up, like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's just go mess with this old racist motherfucker, right? And he opens the door to like this van, and there's like 4 attack dogs. And we're like,
ready.
And you guys have a good day. Thanks, bye. And we like peel off because like the dogs, all of it, like they all like boom right on us. Like literally all their heads just looked right at us, and like, oh shit, we're gonna die. And then we're like, yeah, we're not going to mess with him. But that's the stuff that I remember like watching these guys going, I feel bad for them, because I'd see little kids that had no idea what they were being indoctrinated in, that didn't probably care. They would have played with a black kid, a white kid, a brown kid. They wouldn't have cared, other than the fact that their family were telling them that's wrong. They wouldn't have cared. They're just kids. They just want to play. They just want to have fun. And whoever wants to play and have fun is now your best friend. And so for me, as a play professional, and this is all the way back to what I do, it doesn't matter what you look like, sound like, where you're from. If you can find things in common and you can find something to play and something to do, like the moment I walked in here, I saw the elk and I went, oh my gosh, that thing. I'm like, you've been outdoors. We could probably geek about where we've been. We could talk about calibers of hunting rifles. We could talk about the stock. We can talk all the things, because it's immediate connection. It's a point. And I think as a human species, a lot of people are missing that.
Oh yeah, they are.
They're missing those connection pieces. Because I can ask you, like, and I did, how'd you get that? Where'd you go? What were you doing? Because I have yet to have a successful hunt. And I want to be able to provide food for my family. I want to be able to say, yeah, I'm a good hunter, but I'm not, because I didn't grow up doing it. I grew up with deer and elk and all that kind of stuff running around me, but I never grew up hunting it. And so I'm at a complete loss. I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff. Now, if you ask me to go out and hike, I can find anything. I can find cougars. I can find deer, elk, bears, wolves, all the things. I can find them because I like to go hunt and do that kind of stuff. But I'm not really good at killing them yet because that's not my skill set. And so if we as a species, again, can find something we have in common and we can play at that thing, we can get over a myriad of other things. We can then have the really hard discussions of race, religion, politics, and those things don't matter as much because we have something in common that we can talk about. We can always go back to the thing where we go, okay, wait a minute. Remember how we connected? Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's bring back the good stuff. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let's talk about the hard stuff again. And as a species, we need that. We need to have those things in common where we can come together, where we can make the world a better place, and we can still fight and argue about all this stuff, but we can still sit down and have a meal together and not want to kill each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big deal.
All right. Record. And yeah, it's incredible how many things in life you can think about when you're not chasing pussy. You know, you could sit down and think about like life.
Don't get me wrong. There should be a certain percentage of your life that should be dedicated to that pursuit. Yeah. But at the same time, it shouldn't be 100%.
No.
Right.
No.
Because as a species, we are driven to procreate. Like that's a drive. And so I find it interesting. I was what I call a slow mature. Like I was very slow to mature. Mm-hmm. Like didn't party in high school, didn't do anything in high school, never got in trouble really. I saw my sister get in trouble once and I was like, I don't ever want to get in trouble because it looks like it sucks. And
it means you're already mature.
It means I was already mature beyond my years, but I was also very slow to mature in terms of relationships romantically.
Yeah, that's true.
And sex and that kind of stuff. I had no idea. Like I was not a partier. I didn't see any of that stuff going on. I knew it was happening because I had friends who were in that scene. But personally, I signed contracts for sports saying, I won't do stupid shit. I will be dedicated to the sport. Mm-hmm. And so I took those very seriously. And so I was like, okay, I was in bed by 10 o'clock almost every single night. You know, on the weekends, it was 11. And that was kind of how I lived because school and sports. That was what I did. In the summertime, I worked on the farm, driving a 1932 Ford, whatever it was, and having fun. Yeah. But I loved everything about high school. I thought it was great. I had a really good time. I actually enjoyed it. And when I went back, and I saw my friends who were partying, the ones that were like drinking every weekend and trying to escape the reality of life, they were the ones that didn't like high school. And I kept thinking, well, wait, why? Like some of them were athletes, and part of it was I think they were just disconnected, that they weren't fully plugged into the people around them. And I was one of those weird anomalous students that like I didn't have a specific best friend. I didn't have a group of friends that I was always hanging out with because I did theater. I loved playing music. I loved like leadership. So I was in ASB and stuff like that. But I was in cross country, track, and basketball. But I would go to the football game and support my football friends. And I was friends with all the cheerleaders. And I had friends. Was very lucky when I was a freshman. I had a cousin who was a senior who was just an outstanding athlete. And one senior tried to mess with me one time. And my cousin came up to me, punched me in the gut, and said, don't ever fuck with him again. He's mine. And everybody's like, okay, he's cool. And so I immediately got the respect because I took a punch from my cousin. He kind of pulled it back a little bit, didn't really kill me because he could have. Mm-hmm. But that moment like allowed me to like get to know some of the upperclassmen. And so I had a huge range of people that I got to know and got to hang out with. And all of the staff knew my parents and my grandparents because we were generationally in the district. And so I had, I think, a different experience than a lot of people get in school. Mm-hmm. But I was very, very connected to the community. I was very connected with the people that I played sports with. I was very connected with the teachers because some of them would come over to our house and have dinner. Mm-hmm. I was very connected with a bunch of the people that I didn't play sports with that were actually my rivals at other schools because I went to camps with them and I shared experiences. And so I was kind of like a go-between, and it was a natural transition role, whatever it was, that I was like, okay, I know them and I know you. Well, you guys would actually get along if you guys weren't playing basketball against each other and thinking each other were dicks. You guys would actually be friends. And so I'd be like, okay, you guys should meet each other afterwards. Like I would introduce them and then they would go, oh, okay, cool. And then they'd go play pickup ball. And I can't tell you how many times we had like Hoop Fest teams that were cross-rival gyms that got together and played together because I knew somebody, they knew somebody. We would all get together. We'd play pickup games. We'd play volleyball in the summertime at the court at East Valley High School. They used to have a sand court out in the front of the school. They don't have it anymore, I don't think. But it was a place to gather, and it was a place to do something that was not on a screen because we didn't have those, and we had to actually physically be there. Mm-hmm. And so I think that makes a huge difference in how we treat other people and how we see another human being. And yes, we have that tribal instinct of you look and you immediately notice the differences in somebody else. That's the first thing you notice. Within 2 seconds, you see the differences in another human being before you see the similarities. Mm-hmm. And that's a safety mechanism from tribalism, from growing up in small groups of people, where if somebody looked different than you, you had to determine, are they safe or are you going to die? Yeah. Those were the two options, right?
Give me a disease?
Right.
You know?
Everything.
All that shit.
Yeah. And you had to worry about that. But now we live in these great big communities where we have people that look different, that speak different languages, that practice different religions, that dress differently, that any number of differences, and yet here we are all living in the same area and trying to just live life. And if we can find the things, again, that we have in common, if we can find the things that we have in like enough commonalities, enough similarities that we can move forward together. And some of those differences, like, we were talking about like the neo-Nazis in Hayden, that difference, those guys all look like me. They look like me. They literally... People look at me and go,
you have great hair. They don't.
I do have great hair. They didn't.
Yeah, that's a difference. There's huge differences.
There's huge differences, right? But people would look at me and go, oh, because I've actually gone to places where I say, oh, yeah, I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And they're like, is that Hayden Lake? And I'm like, yeah. Like, it's right there. And they're like, oh, are you a Nazi? And I'm like, good God, no. Why? Well, you're white and you're from that area. And I go, oh, is it really that simple?
Dude, yeah. No shit. I felt that same thing when I first moved here from Oceanside. When I got out of the Marines in 2016, the ex and I, we had a house in Fairfield. So it's a little podunk town not too far from here. And I'd go into this Walmart right here. And I had a shaved head because I rocked a shaved head for a long time because of the Marines. Yep. And I remember... this one, like a few different black people looking at me, like I was like, why the fuck are you a white boy with a shaved head in here? I mean, and then it started to dawn on me, like, oh, okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah. But again, that's the not knowing anything other than what somebody looks like.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's hard to get out of that once you put that notion in your brain. Again, we talked about it earlier. The brain doesn't realize the difference between reality and fantasy. If you put it in your mind that somebody is X, Y, or Z, that's always what you're going to see. You're always going to sense that about them. You're going to think, oh, there's something off. They seem really cool, but I don't know, there's something about them because you had a preconceived notion about them. And The hard part is getting past that. And I mean, God, who was it? I was talking. I had an acquaintance that we went out to dinner, and they were talking about their, I think it was a cousin. Yeah, I believe it was a cousin who was on a dating show or something in like late 70s, early 80s. And it was like one of the blind dating shows, like, oh, you're going to like interview these people and like, oh, this guy's really nice. And this guy won. And like, you're actually going to go on a date with this person that you've never seen before. And she started to go on the date with this guy. And she was like, I need to get out of here now. I need to leave. Like, this is not right. This is creepy. Okay. Well, the guy turned out to be a serial killer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I can't remember which one. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think if it was like, if it was one of the major ones or if it was like he only got 5 or 6 people.
Good for her to listen to her intuition.
Right. Her intuition said, this guy is creepy. Mm-hmm. And he played a really great part on TV. But he was actually, so you can actually look it up. He was a serial killer that was on a dating show and won. Okay. And ended up being a serial killer. And she was like, there's something off. I just need to leave. And she ended up going to the bathroom and just left everything there and snuck out. Like literally snuck out the window and was like, I'm gone. And just ditched him. And found like a year later, saw him on the news. And she was like, I went on a date with that guy and he's a serial killer. Like she goes, I would have died. That guy would have killed me. So being able to have that discernment about people is very important. But that's different than being judgmental, which technology allows us to be incredibly judgmental about people because we only see a certain aspect of them if you're only on your screen.
I know. I become more and more judgmental over stupid shit.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where I start to doubt people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like... No. Yeah, okay, anyway. Fair
enough. It's easy to become a pessimist. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get pessimistic about the future, about people in general. Because, I mean, if you look statistically speaking, we are safer now than we've ever been in the entire history of the world.
Yeah.
Like, car accidents are down. Mm-hmm. We have, car safety is up. Fewer people are dying in car accidents. Fewer people are dying of, a million different things. We're safer than we've ever been before. But the people, like, would have us believe, like the news would have us believe that it's the most dangerous time we've ever been alive. Mm-hmm. Now, you think about it, like school shootings are up an astronomical amount compared to what they were 40 years ago. But we also have to recognize that the first school shooting was in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. It was a long time ago. People go, oh, school shootings are a new thing. No, they've been happening for as long as we've had schools, basically. And so they are more frequent. And what does that come from? Mm-hmm. Like, this is something that I'm interested in is like, what's the psychology of somebody who decides that the only option that they have is to pick up a firearm and kill as many people as possible? What is the impetus? What is going on psychologically? Because obviously they are so incredibly hurt. They are so incredibly disconnected. They are so incredibly maladapted to the situation that they're in that they think that's the only option. And the truth is that a gun is an equalizer. You don't have to be an alpha male if you have a firearm. You don't have to be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, the best at anything, and that is an equalizer. But when I was a kid, you'd duke it out. You'd throw down. You'd go behind the school and throw punches. And at the end, somebody would go, okay, cool. You stopped. We both stopped. Okay, we're good. And that was it. And you developed a pecking order that said, okay, that guy's really good at fighting. I'm not going to mess with him. Which was okay, because then you didn't mess with each other. Now, I would also recognize that, great, that guy kicked my ass once, but I'm a lot better than him at a lot of other things. And so that kid is probably also broken in some ways. I might be broken in some ways. But if we can realize that we all got our shit to deal with, and some people's shit is a lot bigger than others, I start to care less about, excuse me, did you malign me on Facebook? Or did you make fun of me? Or did I not get as many likes? That kind of stuff. I mean, thank God I grew up when I did, because I didn't have to deal with those things. I think those things add to the pressure of having to be a perfect human, or at least seem to be a perfect human, which we are not. And so I don't know how to change that mentality, that that viewpoint of we're not good enough. Because, again, we're all not good enough, and we're all just great at the same time. How do we help each other out to become better? Because I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you sound like. I don't care where you're from. I want us all to win. I want us all to have a good time. And that's like primarily who I am as a person, is I want us to get along, and I want us to have some struggle. You have to have struggle. If you don't have struggle, you cannot experience the pinnacles of success and accolades without the valleys. Mm-hmm. You just can't have it. And so how do we help kids experience that? How do we help people realize that everybody's going through something, and that everybody matters? And at the same time, if you matter, you have to realize everybody else does. Like, take care of yourself and help take care of others. Like, just that simple golden rule. And I like to say the golden rule is like great, but I think the platinum rule is better. And the platinum rule is do unto others or like treat others as they need to be treated.
Oh, that's a good point. That's way better. Platinum. Yeah. Oh, wow. I like that. Yeah. They need to be treated a certain way.
Right. And if we can recognize that as a person, like, this is what that person really needs in this moment. And if I can offer that, if I have the ability, the attention, the energy, and I can say, yeah, go ahead. Like, you need to win right now. I don't need to win right now. I'm good. You can take the win. Like, why would I begrudge another person the ability to say, I won? I'm not that. I hate to lose, but at the same time, I hate to see somebody absolutely, completely soul crushed at the same time. Because I know what that can do to somebody. And I've seen what it can do. And so if we can just lift each other up a little bit, just a little bit, that makes a difference in the world. Those things.
Yeah. You alluded to some things that I've thought about wholesale after meeting thousands and thousands of privates come through the Marines, and when I was a combat instructor, and I realized there's three things that a lot of these privates that had the most confidence had in common were those who can dance, those who can fight, and those who can articulate their higher being. Mm-hmm. Now, if you get a person that can do all three, they're very, very efficient, mm-hmm. deadly. That person that could do violence but does not. That's what I think embodies like what part of what a leader is.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, dancing mm-hmm. is akin to sexual prowess. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's a really good dancer is probably really good at sex. Like, I think we've gotten away from that as a society. Mm-hmm. Like, you look at people who are good dancers, and everybody wants to be a good dancer. And yet very few people dedicate time to becoming a good dancer. Mm-hmm. Why? Because time. They're busy. They need to do something else. It's not something that's vital for survival, mm-hmm. right? You look at a person who's good at fighting. That is a crazy skill set. I think we just had Francis Ngannou fight Tyson Fury, mm-hmm. right? You go, here's a guy who's an MMA fighter, and he's going to go fight a professional boxer. I know. And you go, yeah, I mean, he's got some hands. He can throw down. He can throw a punch.
Oh, yeah.
But, dude, it's Tyson Fury. Like, that guy's a professional. Mm-hmm. And his art is boxing. It's dancing while throwing fists.
Yeah.
And the guy's a gypsy. He is tough. He is tough. And so to watch that fight and to watch Francis Ngannou go 10 rounds with a world champion in a sport that he's only started practicing 6 months earlier. Mm-hmm. Holy cows. I have nothing but respect. And the fact that he got a knockdown and didn't get like completely obliterated was impressive. And I'm like, damn, those guys, both of them are incredible human beings in their own regards. Mm-hmm. And then you take a person who's able to articulate, a person who can express meaning and value through words and language that people understand, and has the ability to connect human beings through the spoken word. Holy cows. That is another major skill. And if you take all of those together, you have you have like a triple threat. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really what you're looking for, because that person has the capability of violence. They have the ability to defend themselves and defend the tribe. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to express the needs of the tribe, and they have the ability to have fun with the tribe.
That's so true. That's a great way to put it. Things I don't even think about. This is why I ask these questions. This is why I pose these things to try to give people, try to get people to give me feedback on things that I've thought about in ways that I've never thought before.
Yeah. Well, that's the brilliance of like two minds together create a third, more powerful mind.
Perfect.
Is your life experiences, my life experiences, we can like start to convey those, and then all of a sudden we go, oh, I'd never even thought about that before. I've been working with kids and people for 20 years, and just a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a program for kids, and I said, hey, there's only 3 ways to button up your shirt. And I said, you can go top down, you can go bottom up, or you can start in the middle and work both ways. And the kid goes, what if you start at the top, went to the bottom, start at the next button at the top, went to the next one at the bottom, so you start at the ends and work towards the middle? I was like, holy crap, I've never even thought about that. 20 years. And it's the first time a kid has ever said, well, what about this? And I learned something new.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it, now there's 4 ways to button your shirt. So that's the brilliance of the ability to articulate and the ability to convey information. Mm-hmm. Because it changes the way somebody thinks. And that's so much about what, politics is like, trying to change the way people think. Well, the hard part is that when you change the way somebody thinks, eventually you hope that it changes the way they act.
Yeah.
Because that's the important part.
Mm-hmm. Behavior.
Yeah, behavior. Behaviors are the thing. If you can control how somebody does something, if you can help them to be better in a certain manner. Like we know sitting down is for hours and hours on end is terrible for you. Mm-hmm. If we can encourage people, put that little earbud or whatever it is in their brain that they go, oh, I should probably go outside. And they just start to go outside for 10 minutes a day. And they go, oh, that was really nice. And then they go out for 20 minutes a day. And then they're doing 30 minutes. And then they're doing an hour. And they're feeling so much better because they're getting vitamin D from the sun. They're getting the wind on their face. They're feeling energized. They go out and they see their neighbors physically in person versus like having to see them through a screen or comparing themselves to whatever is great going on in their lives. It's a huge difference. And so just the thought that leads to action is where we can be very influential as human beings. And so that ability to articulate and to articulate an idea that catches on, that changes people, that makes them think that they can be better and they can do better. That's an incredible skill. And I think that's what a lot of politicians try and do. But at the same time, politicians are also kind of on all sides gross.
Yeah. And I think about that. Like, what is a person's ability to fight will give them the confidence to stand in a room and express their higher being. Mm-hmm. And articulate. The dancing is a different thing too, because dancing is a social grace. Mm-hmm. In that it used to be a way to legally fill up other people.
Yeah.
While expressing an outward connection, but at the same time, they could express their own sexual energy at you to let you know that you are not proficient enough at what you do.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, too. Which I'm like, all right, cool. Is it? But that's one thing that's totally been taken away is the art of dancing as well. So,
Yeah.
Have you studied any dancing?
I did. In college. In college I was an education major, but I had a lot of, because the education, I was weird in that I took 18 credits a semester, which apparently everybody was like, that's a lot. A full credit is like, full load is 12. And I was always like, wait, really? But that's only like 3 classes. Like, there's like 5 days in a week. Like, why would I not take more? Like, if I'm going to come to school, I'm going to come to school.
Yeah.
And I just went all in. So I took 18 credits every semester. So I got to fill up my I'm just going to call it my dance card.
Yeah.
I got to fill up my dance card with extracurricular activities that didn't necessarily go towards my degree. And so I took a stage combat class,
Cool.
which was awesome.
Stage combat. What's that about?
That's theater.
Okay, theater.
Theater
so
fighting.
Like knights of medieval times.
Yep, exactly.
Were the swords sparking when you'd hit?
No, they weren't that cool. We weren't that cool. We were a small college. We had a better technical program than an acting program, which was I really enjoyed that because I actually did that professionally for 10 years. But I took the stage combat course. I took a karate class, which I thought was awesome. I loved it because I came in there with no knowledge about karate other than I love Bruce Lee because he's awesome. He's the baddest ass on the planet. I think he's freaking rad. And I went, okay, I'm a big guy. I'm pretty athletic. I played college sports. I played sports my entire life. I can do stuff. And they put me in against this big brown belt. And they're like, all right, fight. And I was like, okay, wait. Tell me, what do you mean fight? Like, are we death matching? Like, what are we doing? Like, I need to know what kind of fighting we're doing. And they're like, you're doing a karate fight. I'm like, it's my first day in karate. I don't know what that means. Can I kick him in the balls? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay so it's dance fighting. And they're like, no, it's not dance fighting. I'm like, okay, can I punch him in the face? And they're like, well, he'll block it. And I was like, okay. So here's this big brown belt. He's like, he's probably my height, probably about 6'2" and about 260 pounds. Big dude, super nice guy, really nice guy. And like, they're like, okay, stand together, bow, kumite. And he's like, fight. I was just like, boxer stance. And he comes at me and I just like straight up front kick right to the gut. Just boom. And just pop him good. And he just goes down. And I'm like, do I keep punching? What do I do? They're like, nope, stop. And I'm like, but I should probably punch him again. And he goes, nope, you got your point. And I said, wait, what do you mean I got a point? And he goes, you're point fighting. And I said, what does that mean? It's my first day of karate, bro.
Yeah,
you got to explain these things. And he goes, well, if you are able to hit him in his torso, controlled, and you don't hurt him, then you get a point. And I'm like, you should have started by saying that part first. Like, seriously, like, explain what the rules of this are. And so I ended up fighting this brown belt, and he did win eventually. But I'm like, okay, so you can't really punch hard. You got to punch controlled, slow, and you got to pull everything back, and you can't really kick them. Because I'm like, I'm going to go for knees. I'm going to go for the throat. I'm going to, like, punch you in the nuts. I'm going to do everything I can to, like, annihilate you. Because that's what I kind of grew up with, like, watching animals and, like, friends and fight. Like, that's what I grew up with. And so I had that class. I had a dance class. I took dance. I took Western swing.
Okay.
And then I took East Coast, West Coast.
Real dynamic.
Like, yeah, dance swing. And I ended up actually helping teach that class.
Oh, cool.
Just because I had so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And I had enough rhythm that the instructor was like, I would like you to help with the beginning class next semester. I was like, okay, cool. And so I ended up helping instruct the next semester of dance class, which was really cool because she was like this tiny little thing. and I ended up getting to do a bunch of the throws and the flips and the twirls and stuff like that. It was so much fun. It was just a blast. And she could follow. This is the brilliant part about dancing, is when you have a really good partner, they can follow the lead. And so I learned about your body mechanics and your movement and leadership, like literally leadership. I wouldn't say anything, but I would move my arm and she would do a twirl away, and I would just gently pull back and she would twirl back in. And if I led in again, she would spin into my outstretched arm and kick and lean back. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing ever, because I'm not doing much. She's doing all the work. But she knew how to follow. She knew what the cues meant, and she could feel just those gentle little nudges, and she would know exactly what to do. And it was brilliant. And so dancing, so much fun. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I continued to dance all through college, including like, you just throw me at a bar and I'm going to be like, there's music, I'm going to go dance. Just because I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. And again, like you said, it's like this, oh, that person's pretty good at dance. Okay, cool. I'll go dance with them. And it was a measure of your sexual prowess.
Yeah.
Was your ability to dance.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time.
I didn't either. It took
no
me
clue.
this long to figure it out.
Right.
You know?
And now I've been married for 20 years and I'm like, I still like to dance.
Well, it's a social grace. And it's something that should be socially accepted. Like we should have more like dances and balls and stuff where like everybody dances with everybody, and that like gets like whatever animosity there was on the table, like girls that you thought you had a chance with, you go out there and they treat you like a little bitch. You're like, okay, never mind.
Never mind. You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked.
Yeah, that's exactly what's right.
So I've got a son who's a freshman in high school, and he just went to homecoming.
Okay.
And I said, all right, son, here's life advice that my parents never gave me. Dance. Just go out and dance. Just go have fun. Like if you go out and dance, if you start, people will follow. Because almost everybody is looking for somebody to start.
Ooh, that's a good point. I've seen this on videos too.
Yeah, right? You've seen the guy at the concert that goes and starts dancing, and then all of a sudden a couple people join. There's the initiator, there's the early adapters, there's the everybody else, and then there's late to the party. But if you are the one that starts it, that initiates it, like that becomes a thing where they're like, oh, you can do that. Like if you're doing it, other people will join in automatically because you're the early adapter and people will recognize that, which is a really big deal, especially in schools. Especially like I look at schools now, and I just did I was at an assembly for my son's school. His cross-country team is really good. Like, they're 9th in the nation for cross-country. It's one of the few sports in high school athletics that has a national championship. It's high school cross-country. They're 9th in the country. This weekend, they're going to actually go run at the Nike Invitational, Nike National Regionals. So if they place in the top 2 there, they go to nationals where they have a chance to win a national championship. Now, as 9th place team, they're probably not going to win the national championships, but they've got a really good chance of going and placing very high, which is awesome. But I go there and they have because they won the state championship. They won the state cross-country title, which hasn't happened in more than a decade. And that was the first one they won. This is the only second time they've won the state championship. And I was kind of astounded at how little the student population cared. I mean, sure, it's cross country, but you just won a state championship in a sport. That's a big deal.
I've noticed that too.
Yeah, like
I've
kids
thought
just
of
don't
that,
care.
Like I'd hear it on the announcements. I'm like, hey, they just won a state championship. Maybe we should give a shit. No, they're girls.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's literally it. Like, they did okay, but their teams did phenomenal at sports this fall. Like cross country won the state championship. They're on to state for swimming. Their football team is going to state. Their skeet shooting team is going to state. Yeah, they have skeet shooting. We still have shooting sports in Idaho. They're going to state.
Good.
Yeah.
At least they have skeet shooting.
Oh,
My
dude, they're
sister
great.
did skeet shooting, skeet and trap.
Dude, yeah.
In East Wenatchee when I was there.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm like, wait, you guys have that here? Sweet. They had golf. I think golf went to state, guys and girls. And what was it? Was there one other sport? Soccer. No, volleyball. Volleyball went to state. I'm like, dude, you had like 6 teams from your fall sports lineup. That's like almost every single sport went to state or took state. That's damn impressive. And most of the student population was like, I'm not kidding, in the bleachers, on their phones, talking to the person next to them. They just didn't care.
No, they don't give a fuck.
They don't care. That's a problem.
Oh, well then take it wholesale when you come back from 2 wars. And you come to this society and everyone's like, "Oh, did you see what Katy Perry did during the Super Bowl?" Like,
nope.
Bitch, we're fighting a fucking war in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, "What? Still?"
We're there? Wait, haven't we been there for like 20 years?
Yeah. Well, I know. Same thing, man. It breeds affluenza. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you brought up those points, and you haven't even touched on jiu-jitsu yet. You've alluded to it, but you're right. I love it. I think it's a good thing. Going out there, getting my fucking ass beat. Whenever I think I got an ego, I go out there, I get my fucking ass beat. And it's good because you start to build confidence. Like, the more you can get your ass beat by people who are really good at beating your ass, and you start to, like, figure out things like, oh, I figured out that escape. Motherfucker, you can't get me on that, Can't get me on that. You got to change your tactic. And then you got the confidence to stand up in front of a room of people who've never fought.
Yeah.
And say whatever you want.
Yep.
And they don't got the fucking balls to stand up to you. And that's... And you know what? Jocko Willink talked about this. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I have a master's degree in data analytics. It doesn't matter what your degree is. Humans are very primal. And they're going to go down to, like, a fight in some way.
Yep.
Whether it's a fight as portrayed as a sports team or whether it's a fight, an actual cage fight. But they're going to do it. And there's something that needs to be done in that process in order to develop, like, what is the higher thing. And you think about that. Even these billionaires that have this education and prominence, they all go back to what? Fighting.
Yep.
Wanting to start a cage fight.
Yep. I'm still waiting for the Elon
and fucking Mark with
Zuckerberg just got his knee.
He tore his ACL,
right?
Dude, which scares the fuck out of me. It's just like, well, maybe he's going hard as fuck. I don't know, because I've watched this. I've watched these injuries with people. I've heard of people. No, I see him get injured, and I think, and I thought wholesale on this. I think more people get injured in skiing than they do in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because you're going at speed and smacking shit.
Oh, dude, speed kills. Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, so I was just rolling yesterday doing jiu-jitsu.
God bless.
Love it. It was fun. It was awesome. And we've started something we call the Shark Tank.
Oh, okay.
And the Shark Tank is great. There's 20 minutes left in class. Somebody gets in the center of the ring, and we all go against them, one after the other. And you go for 20 minutes straight with a fresh opponent every time you either tap out or the bell rings. And
you just keep the line.
You just keep going.
Like bull in the ring.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I remember that as a middle school wrestler. Mm-hmm. And it was freaking hard. But guess what? We developed complete animals. We developed guys in middle school that won state championships for multiple years in a row and went on to college to wrestle that were just monsters. And they had unbelievable capacity for work and for pain and for suffering. And they would go out there and they would put their heart and soul on the mat in a practice. And then when it came to time for a match, like, great, I only got to roll for 6 minutes. You're going down, sucker. I don't care who you are. You only got 6 minutes of my time. Dude, I wrestled 12 guys in 6 minutes last week. What are you going to do? And that attitude, that confidence, that, great, bring it on. Let's go. And I love that. And I love being a part of that. And, Yes, I've been injured in jiu-jitsu. I had to have knee surgery.
God, what happened?
I was rolling with a guy who was he was a Division 2, Division 3 wrestler. Just an animal. Great guy. Super nice. Like, seriously, love this guy. We'll support him till the end of the earth. And his family, his kids, they're great people. And we were rolling, and we stopped. He tapped me out, and I said, okay, I'm new. Like, I think I was just a brand new blue belt. And I said, okay, so what if if from here, because he kept going for leg things. And I'm like, I don't know anything about leg locks.
I always tap when people fuck
Dude,
with my legs.
oh,
I don't fuck around.
I still don't. I still do. Like,
Yeah.
I got tapped yesterday. Like, somebody he literally turned his back towards me, and I'm like, I can take your back. Oh, no, he's going for my legs. Tap. And I tapped. Because I'm like, no, I got, like, skinny little bird ankles, man, and flat feet. Like, you put my foot the wrong way, and I'm like, ugh. And it doesn't even, like, it's, like, people will just get ready for, like, some sort of leg lock or a knee lock on my ankle, on my foot, and I tap from the ankle lock. And they're like, that's not even a straight ankle lock. I'm like, I know, because my ankles are like totally pronated. Like, I don't have flexibility, and it sucks. But I was with this guy, and I said, what if I put my legs up here? And I literally just had his arm up like this, and I put my leg over his knee. He goes, oh, I just put my arm over your ankle like this. And when he did that, he didn't even rest his arm. He just put his arm over the top, and as he started to come around, he wasn't putting pressure. My knee just popped, and we both heard it. He just kind of goes, what was that? And I just go, I think that was my knee. And he goes, are you okay? And I thought, I think so. And I like kind of bent it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Okay, that was weird. And then we kept rolling. And then I went home that night, and my knee blew up like a grapefruit. And so I was like, I don't think I'm okay. And we were just like, literally wasn't even an active roll. It was just, what if I put my leg here? He goes, I'd put my arm over like this and start to wrap my arm around. And when he started to wrap his arm around, just pop. And that like tore my meniscus. And so I had to have surgery for that. And so now I'm very aware of like leg locks, ankle locks. I've just started to get into that. And I'm like, every time I go very slow. I only roll with certain people that also have either tight knees or knee issues or ankle issues. Because we go, okay, we're going to go very slow on leg locks. Because that's like you get a heel hook and you start to like wrench it around. Like you can blow somebody's knee real simple, real easy. And there was a tournament this last weekend, and our kids did great. They wrestled phenomenal. And there were 2 injuries in the entire tournament. One was one of our wrestlers, and he actually, it was his fault, not the other guy's. He went to roll through for something, and he ended up popping his shoulder out of socket.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, and the other kid.
That was just it.
Yeah, and he. I mean,
it wasn't a tear.
Oh, no, it wasn't tear, and he.
Pop it back.
Yeah, he's like literally the kid's in the mount, and he goes, "Oh, stop!" And the kid that was in mount, like these are 15-year-olds, super aggressive, very wild, strong, aggressive, but good kids, and. He just goes, stop. I don't think I can go on. And he couldn't move his arm. And the kid on top was about to go for a Kimura. Mm-hmm. And he goes, stop. And the kid was listening, and she stopped. So there's this deep respect, I think, that comes with jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Of you respect the tap.
Fucking
Absolutely.
better. Jesus.
You better, or if you get a reputation, you're not going to be welcome in the gym. Mm-hmm. And then you don't get to practice. And if you do come to places, you get a reputation, and people go, oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, just send him against the killer. Just give him to the black belt, right? And the black belt will take care of him. Because nobody wants to be that guy. And that's the thing about community. The community of combat, people genuinely care about each other because they've been through some shit together. And that, I think, makes a difference. And so, I don't know. I love jiu-jitsu. I'm CrossFit coach. I've been doing that for over a decade. And again, it's the same thing. It's that community of suffering. Like, you go in, you're going to do something hard. It's going to suck. But I don't know. I still, like, as much as I love CrossFit, I think jiu-jitsu has started to take over because
jiu-jitsu's the new golf, man.
Absolutely.
That's the higher network. I mean, I listen to all these people with their BNI groups and all these stupid groups. I don't know if you heard of BNI.
Oh yeah, I get asked probably a couple times a month to be in one.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, jiu-jitsu is the higher network. I show up to these, yeah, but you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Don't be a fucking dick. And I'm very clear right off the bat with people before I roll. I'm like, look, dude, you're gonna play that leg lock shit. I'm just gonna tap. Like, I don't play no crap. Like, I gotta live.
Yeah, I have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be able to function. I can't. Jiu-jitsu is not my entire life. Like, it'd be awesome if it was. I'd be totally training differently, eating differently, doing a lot of things differently if it was, but it's not my life. I don't get to train for 8 hours a day. I can train probably I think I probably go 3 to 5 times a week. And if I do that, I'm feeling great, but I don't roll hard 3 to 5 times a week. I'll roll hard once, maybe twice. And then everything else is flow roll, where me and another guy, like I've got a couple of partners that we know we're working on a specific set of skills, and we'll put together a drill where we'll go, side control, mount, turn, and then we'll go from there. So we'll try and build a sequence of let's do this to this to this, and slowly add just a little bit more resistance each time. So that you get better at it. Because if you go from, and we had this conversation yesterday with one of the guys I was rolling with, where, great, I can get here if you're not actually fighting me. Mm-hmm. But if you're actually trying to like murder me, I can't get to the position I need to get this move. And so I don't understand it. Like I just can't do it. Even if it's a, white belt, brand new white belts. It's funny because I've rolled with some really big, strong dudes that are brand new white belts. And because I've been doing it for a while, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll let you take me down. Okay, cool. I'm totally comfortable on my back. I'm totally comfortable down on the ground because I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm going to let you get tired. I'm just going to scooch my hips under you, and then I'm going to sweep you. And now I'm on top. And now I'm just going to pressure you. And I'm just going to let you suffer for a little bit. Oh, and you're going to give me an arm. Okay, now I'll take an arm bar. Oh, I don't want that. No, I'll take a Kimura. No, I'm going to switch to Americana. No, I'm going to go triangle. And it's so fun to go, oh, wait, I actually do know some stuff. Because when I roll against a brown belt, I feel like a complete idiot. I feel like a brand new white belt because they can just own me. But there's that combat specialty, like where if you're good at dancing, fighting, or talking, those are very specific skills. And when I first walked into the jiu-jitsu gym and there was this, cute little purple belt, and she goes, oh, I'm a teacher. And I'm like, I'm a teacher. And she's like, well, come on out and roll. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was 100 pounds more than her. And I thought, this is going to be easy. She's a tiny little girl. She tapped me out 5 times in 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And there was literally nothing I could do to stop her. And I thought, I should probably learn how to do this because this is a magical skill. And you think about it, after the first 6 weeks in class, when some brand new white belt walked in and goes, I want to try this. How do you say it? Jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I'm going to try that. Okay, come on, let's go. And I could own them after 6 weeks. That was a confidence builder. You can walk into any room and feel confident. Now, we don't wear our gis. We don't wear our belts in public. I don't know if somebody's a black belt. I don't know if somebody's a brown belt. I don't know if somebody's a brand new white belt. I have no idea what their skill set is, but I do know my own skill set, and I'm pretty confident in my physical capabilities. And so if somebody's like, cool, like I think Jocko said it was great. If somebody says, yeah, fuck you, I'm better than you. Okay, cool, you are. Because I have the confidence in myself to go, I don't need that challenge. Like, why does that person matter? Like,
That's a good point, Jocko.
Right. I don't care. You're going to call my mom a name. Cool. I don't really care. She doesn't know who you are.
And a man like Jocko has to deal with that in real life. Because he's who he is.
Because people know who he is. Now, he also says...
so he's telling you from experience.
If somebody lays hands on him, it's
Different
100%
story.
go time.
Yep.
Because now there's physical, now there's physical contact. Now it's go time. And if that's the case, you better watch out because I'm not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So personally, I just don't mess with people. And I find if you don't mess with people, generally they don't mess with you.
Dude, isn't that the truth? Most
Live
people
and let live.
don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves.
Oh
they
my
live
gosh.
in their 2-inch screen, and that's all they give a fuck about.
Okay. So here's the thing that somebody said this the other day, and it blew my mind. They said that when you're in your teenage years and early 20s, all you can think about is what other people think about you.
Ooh, that's a good point.
And then you get in your 30s and you start to get some self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in your 40s and 50s and you realize that you've been spending the last few decades of your life thinking about what other people think about you, and you suddenly realize that all they've been thinking about is themselves and what other people think about them, and they paid no attention to you. And at that moment, you're free. It's that time that you discover that you finally think, oh my gosh, I was so worried about what other people thought about me, but what they were thinking was, oh my gosh, what do other people think about me? And they were so worried about that they weren't thinking about you in the first place.
That's true.
It's
All right, and we're back. So, acres of diamonds.
acres of diamonds, as we were just chatting about on our quick little hiatus there. It's so interesting because we were talking about acres of diamonds. You said that, and I immediately thought, oh my gosh, I tell a story to students about acres of diamonds. And my friend Janine Letford tells stories about the acres of diamonds and the African farmer who was literally standing in their own farm of acres of diamonds, and they were just looking for these polished diamonds, not realizing that the rocks they had in their field were diamonds all along. Mm-hmm. And so we as a society, as a human being, you have to realize, you have to start to discover, what are your acres of diamonds? What are they? Is it your skill set in, fighting, dancing, the ability to express ideas, your writing, your ability to understand algorithms? Like, oh my gosh, that right there is something that I don't understand. Like, for me, that is not my acres of diamonds. I don't understand that at all. And the fact that I've worked with almost 2 million people, and people go, well, wait, how many subscribers do you have for your YouTube channel? And I'm like, I don't know, like 10. They're like, but you've worked with like millions of people. I'm like, yeah, because I don't understand that. I don't understand the technology behind it. Again, born in the 1900s, horse and buggy era. Yeah, that was me. Okay, I get that. But helping people, like if somebody goes, I understand that part, you understand this part, this person understands this part. If we can lift each other up, like we can all help each other to get better in our arenas, and we can help lift others up besides us. Mm-hmm. Like that makes a huge difference in the world, and it makes a positive difference. And it's so easy to get negative. It's so easy to get downtrodden, to get like, bitter. And like I said earlier, I think, you put me in a rocking chair and I become an angry old Scottish man, like get off my lawn kind of thing. And that's easy to do. It's really easy to do. The hardest part is to try and maintain your positive outlook on life, because news, media will always have us comparing ourselves to others and dividing us versus bringing us together. And if we can start to focus on the things that do bring us together, whether that's our sports teams, you look at any sports team in the country, any professional sports team, they have a insane, dedicated group of people that absolutely go crazy every time they take up the field, right? Whatever field that is. And they are there all the time. They are the diehard fans, and they're not going anywhere. Good, bad, ugly, they will complain about their team. They will piss and moan about their team. But damn it, if you rail against their team, you're the enemy. Mm-hmm. No matter how bad they suck, you're outside, because it's us versus them. And the truth is that when they get a player from another team and all of a sudden their luck changes because, they got new leadership and somebody comes in and it fits and it jives and the chemistry works and they go, wait, we can do this. And now all of a sudden they're good. They're like, we're on top of the world. It's great. right? That's the synergy people are looking for. It's sometimes you got to take a piece out and put a new piece in, and then the puzzle fits. And so that finding your acres of diamonds, everyone is surrounded with them. It's just a matter of discovering what your diamonds are. And in education, we're not focused on what are your diamonds. We're focused on how do you farm them? How do you get them to market? How do you transport them? How do you make sure that the labor is covered? How do you make sure, like all the different details, and you don't even know what the diamonds are. You got to discover what the diamonds are first and then start to work out the logistics. And that's where multiple people come in handy, like people who have different expertise in different fields. Because like I've got friends that are experts in franchising. I got friends that are experts in intercultural creativity, DEI work. I've got friends who are experts in human connection. I got friends who are world champion Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. I got friends who are professional educators who've been in the field for 30 years and have more knowledge about what goes on in a classroom than any professor could tell you. I got friends that, have data and acquisition and know exactly what the numbers mean and how to work the algorithms. But by themselves, we are not great. Together, we are phenomenal. And that's what we need to do as a human species. We need to learn how to come together for a common greater good. And that's really hard because people want to be divided. We want to be in small, very local tribes of groups of people that is us versus everybody else. And not realizing we share a tiny little rock floating through space at 23,000 miles an hour. And we're like absolutely minuscule in the realm of the universe. And the fact that we know less about the universe than we know about ourselves. And we know very little about ourselves, right? So how do we help each other get better day by day, bit by bit, piece by piece, minute by minute, second by second?
So that boils down to a good question that I think you are definitely an expert at answering, considering you have a podcast in it, which we haven't even touched on. So check it out. No BS Leadership Podcast on Apple. What is a leader to you?
That's a great question.
It's the hardest question
Right.
I've ever asked any human.
Right. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years and working with leaders and on leadership in education. And my co-hosts have been in the medical field, finance, nonprofit, higher education, and banking. And I'm guessing that we would probably all come up with a different definition of what is leadership. So as I'm thinking about it, what is a leader? That is a brilliant question. I think
The hardest question I've
Right.
ever asked people. And I've asked some tough questions.
right. I think that a leader is probably the person whom people look up to, respect, and admire. And at the same time, that leader looks back at everybody else and looks up to, respects, and admires all of them. And it's the person that doesn't want necessarily to be in a position of power, but wants to help other people. They're literally the tribal leader, the person that says, this is our tribe. We need to lift each other up. And it's not about one person being at the top. It's about all of us being there. Because if you're a leader, and one of my podcast hosts says this, that if you're a leader and you're going for a walk and nobody's following you, you're just going for a long, lonely walk by yourself.
Truth.
Because if nobody's following you, you're not a leader. And so I've seen that. And so I think the person that really truly is a leader admires, respects, and looks up to the people that they're serving as the community, as the leaders themselves, not necessarily they're the pinnacle of success. And I think that's kind of where I land, is that they lift others up.
Truth. They do.
Yeah.
They inspire in others and eager to want. To dream more, do more, and be more.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think I wish that wasn't the definition of a leader. I wish that was the definition of just a human. That it was just the things that we did as people to help each other out. Because I think that would really, really, truly change the world. And I think that's what a lot of people go out seeking. But then there's the trap of power, where you get this sense of I get to versus we get to. And that could be a whole other podcast.
But you touched on a point that I usually ask most guests, which is, what is power?
For me, power is influence.
Okay. Which is the next question. What is influence?
Influence is power.
Okay.
Which is trying to use the same word in the definition, use the defining word to define the word, which doesn't make sense. But
no, you're right on point.
Right. But influence really is power. If you can influence people to change, that's power. And that's what every single, political group wants to do. That's what every nonprofit wants to do. That's what every commercial wants to do. They want to change your behavior. They want to change who you are as a human being. And if you can do that, that's power. That is true influence. And it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. If nobody cares and all the ants say, screw you, and they come to take your stuff, you're powerless to stop them. And so, but if you can say, wait a minute, everybody, play fair, be nice. Work hard, play fair, be kind. And people listen, that's power. That is true influence. Because now you don't have to worry. Now you can say things and people will listen and act. And that's a really big deal. But that takes time to develop that credibility. It takes time to develop that respect. It takes time to develop the relationship between you and other people where they will take what you say and actually do it. Yeah. And that's where, we started off talking about the screen. You got these influencers, these young people that are saying, oh, I'm 23 years old and I make $17 million a year. I'm like, I have no idea who you are and I don't care because I'm not buying it. And I know a lot of people, I know people who can set those things up, who actually help them build those commercials so that they can build their following, so that they can make money being an influencer when they don't know jack about shit. But they're really good at putting together a 15-second reel. And people go, oh, that's really cool. Like. So they're good at hacking the algorithm. But then there's also the true experts who are behind the scenes. Those people that have developed the credibility and the influence through actual connection, that then put out something like that maybe doesn't go viral, but they slowly grow. And they have a sub following that is really, truly powerful, where you go, okay, if I say this and people act, it causes a ripple effect. That's power. And so you have to be aware of those people who are in positions of power and what are they really saying? What are they asking? What are they willing to do for their communities? Because really it's about that communal piece. It comes back to, how are we taking care of that tribe? And our tribes are no longer the 150 people that live within, 600 feet of us. our communities are now global. And you can take a group on any social media platform, look at where they are in the world. And I have a friend who does this. He's very, very good at he's like the whole Facebook, that's his realm. And he figured out that there are exactly 425,000 people that fit his exact criteria that he's looking for as consumers. And out of those 425, he's got about 100,000 of them as followers. And he goes, that right there? He goes, dude, I've hit 25% of my market share. That's awesome. And what does he do? 100% of what he does is strictly for those people. That's all he caters to. He's like, I don't care about the billionaire. I don't care about the, 18-year-old kid that just graduated from high school. I don't care about the suburban stay-at-home mom. I don't care about the soccer mom. I don't care about the hunter in, Ohio. I don't care about those people. I care about the demographic that hits this, and this criteria. Those are the people that I'm 100% going for. That's it. Everybody else, they're not my tribe. I don't care.
And of all them, how many at what point of their lives were children?
100% of them. 100%.
100%.
Yeah. And his whole thing, which I think is absolutely brilliant, is heavy metal. He loves heavy metal, and he loves motivation. He's like, if you like Metallica and Tony Robbins, you're my kind of people. If you want to be a better human, but you really like rock and roll and you like to live hard, let's go. And that's his whole demographic. And he's got like 3 or 4 other criteria. And that's it. And he goes, those are the people I cater to. And he goes, I do tests on an almost weekly basis. I do A/B tests where I put out ad A, I'll put out ad B. And he goes, I have found that 98% of the time, people like ad A. And what is ad A? It's this young girl screaming into a microphone with her hair flying behind her. I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, here's ad B. And it's a dude doing the same thing. And he goes, people like the girl screaming in the microphone better than the guy. So 50% of my materials have the girl screaming in the microphone with a positive message, and that's it. And I'm like, it's really that simple? And he goes, yeah. You narrow down, these are the things I want. Here's the people I'm looking for. Here's where they are. Here's what I'm going to give them. And they will come to you because they share the stuff. And that's it. And that is power. That is influence. And I'm like, So I follow his stuff because I like heavy metal. I like to be motivated. And he also happens to be a retired pastor, which is hilarious because his knowledge of heavy metal is absolutely incredible. And he's also teamed up now with a special forces guy that they now run, run and gun heavy metal motivation courses, which is the coolest thing ever. Right? Come learn how to defend yourself and get some motivation, some leadership training, and let's listen to heavy metal. Let's go. And people come from all over the world to go to their courses. It's brilliant. That's leadership. That's power. That's influence. And even though it's a small percentage of the entire population of the world, it's a highly influential population of their group.
Now imagine Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, with an AR in his cardigan.
Mm-hmm.
And he kneels down next to some little girl and he says to her, what do you do with all the mad that you feel?
Yeah. That'd be a powerful episode. Because you think about Fred Rogers and who he was, right? And I can actually probably tell you that if he started talking about the feelings he would open up the ability to have the conversation. And just having this child talk about, what do you do with the feelings of frustration, would probably solve 85% of it. Because we're not always taught to talk about the feelings. We're not taught to talk about what's going on emotionally inside. We're taught to put on a happy face. We're taught that the things on the 2-inch screen are what's real. And we know from data analysis, from talking to any influencer, that they will spend hours creating a single picture and a post. And that it's a snapshot, and it's not even a snapshot. It's a well planned out, thought out, like developed snapshot of their life. And how many of those people are actually miserable because they don't have true connection? So if Mr. Rogers said, let's talk about what happens when you're really, really mad, when you're really upset, when you're really angry, when you feel like there's a volcano inside of you, what do you do? Just having that, like having somebody like that with that power and that influence, talking about it, I think we've gotten away from the ability to have those conversations, the ability to have dissent, to have differing opinions, and to be okay with it. To say, wait a minute, why do you think that? Why do you think the way that you think? Why that choice? Why? I don't understand that. Can you help me understand? And not coming at it from judgmental.
How come you're feeling the way you feel?
Right.
Not why. But
Not
how
why.
Come
yeah.
you're feeling that?
How come?
What happened?
What happened? What do you want?
To happen?
Yeah.
What was the if statement before the else?
Mm-hmm. Those are, and we get away from those because people don't want to be uncomfortable. So when we earlier talked about being outside, being uncomfortable, we talked about jujitsu. Mm-hmm. That's all about being uncomfortable. So I, almost every single day, I walk outside barefoot in the woods. I go take my dog for a walk. We go run, and I take my shoes off, and I walk in the woods. Now, once it snows, I put on a pair of flip-flops. But I'll walk through the snow in flip-flops. And I'll go out for 35, 45 an hour in snow in my flip-flops. And my feet are really cold. Now, if it's a possibility that I'm going to lose a toe, I'm not going to do it. I have that discernment. But I do like to do hard things. And so I'll go cold plunge. I'll go swim in January. I'll get in the water throughout the year because I know that that makes me more resilient. Because if we do hard things, when we confront hard things, they become easier. And it's not that they become easier. We are more resilient and stronger and able to face them. And so that's a hard part with education, with raising kids, with technology is we've made things so easy that there's no resilience. The playgrounds have become so safe that you no longer have to develop resilience to be on the playground. If you fall down and you start crying, everybody comes running and everybody takes care of you. Whereas when I was a kid, when you fell down and you skinned your knee or your elbow and you started crying and nobody came and you were there, you had to take care of yourself. You had to like wrap it up or go, well, I guess I'm just going to bleed. And you suffered through the pain. Now, I'm not saying that you should suffer through the pain all the time because there are some sorts of pain. There are some sorts of pain that are so much to people, it's unbearable. And you should probably get some help. You should go talk to somebody, see somebody, talk to a friend, talk to a counselor, whatever it is. That's important. But the resilience of people, I don't want to say it, but I actually truly believe that it's going down. The ability to be resilient, to to be like, when people start saying, "Oh, your words hurt me." Okay, I'm sorry, but they're words. How are they hurting you? Well, they're hurting my feelings. Okay, I understand that. Are we allowed to have different opinions? Well, yes, but your words hurt me. Oh, okay. Well, again, I'm sorry you feel that way. But opinions are kind of like belly buttons. Everybody's got one, and they're all different. So you're going to have to learn to live with belly buttons. That's just kind of how it is. And I think we've gotten away from that, and that can lead into a whole political conversation about a lot of different things. And I love humans, I love people, but I'm also totally willing to accept that I might be wrong about stuff. And if somebody can explain to me their reason of thinking, I might go, "Oh, I never thought of it that way. Thank you for helping me. Okay, I get it now. Okay." And I can change. But if somebody just gets mad at me and yells at me and says, "You're stupid, you're evil, you're a mean human being because you don't think the way I think," I'm going to be like, throwing deuces and be like, "Sorry, kiddo. Nice try. I don't really care." And there's no compassion there. So having the grace for other human beings and different thoughts and mindsets, like, that's a big deal. So I like to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast because, number one, I love it when somebody brings new information that changes the way he views things. And he's open to, "I never thought of it that way before. Huh. Wow. Holy shit. Wow. Whoa. Holy shit. Wow. Okay, I get it." And it changes how he sees the world. I love that he's open to that. I love that there's that opportunity, that option, that moment where he's had that happen multiple times on his podcast, where he just doesn't know something and an expert comes in and says, "Well, wait a minute, when you do this, 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 and this is what happens in your brain. This is what happens physiologically. And you do this, 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 and this. And it's always going to be the same stimulus. So no matter what you do, it's always going to be the same outcome. If you want to change the outcome, you have to change the stimulus." And he goes, "Wow, okay." And he gets it. And he's willing to change his mind. He's flexible in his thinking. Whereas most of us are very rigid in our thinking. We get into a path, and as we get older, it gets harder and harder to stop because we've developed neural pathways. So it's, again, whole other podcast we could talk about neuroprogramming and neural pathways and how do you develop those and how do you change them from a biomechanical process that makes you a different human being. Because if you do the same thing all the way, all the same time, if you do the same thing the same way every single time, you're always going to get the same result. And if you want to get a different result, you have to do something different. And that's really hard for people because we're creatures of habit. We always do the same thing all the time. So do the different thing, get a different stimulus. But the different thing is hard because it's not what we're used to. And so that's human behavior, different results. It's again, fascinating. People are just absolutely incredible. I love them. They're so much fun to discover new things, to be open to outcome, to figure out what other people know and to plug into that system and to be a part of it for, even if it's just a moment, to be a part of somebody's story.
Yeah, absolutely. That book right there on killing.
Yeah.
That's a book that you should read, and it talks about the separation, the affluenza that separates us from killing, the ritual of killing. Every year there was a killing, a slaughter of the animals.
Yep.
So we could survive.
Yep.
a ritualistic thing where everybody got together and they did this specific task. Butcher a pig.
Yep.
Butcher a lamb. A farm of them.
Oh, yeah.
And we realized this was a thing. And killing was a part of who we were as humans. And now it is separated from us. We go to a grocery store and our meat is merely but a product separated in styrofoam and plastic.
Yep. So I was at a school once about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, and I just started hunting. Now, at the time, and currently, still an unsuccessful hunter in terms of big game. And I show up at the school in Southern California, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so happy to be here. The weather is gorgeous. It's so warm. They're like, it's like 60 degrees. It's so cold. I'm like, yeah, but yesterday I was on a mountain hunting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was like 28 degrees. And they're like, wait, hunting? You were hunting? And they're like, what are you hunting? And I said, I was hunting deer. And they went, you can eat deer? They had no clue. And I said, yes, you can eat deer. They're like, why would you shoot one? They're so cute. And I said, they're like rats with hooves. Where I'm from, they will eat your garden. They will eat everything. They will stomp you into like nothingness. They're mean creatures. They're a nuisance. And they're like, why don't you be like the rest of us normal people and just get the meat that is grown in packages? And my mind exploded, and I decided then and there that it was my civic duty to mess with these 8th graders who were in middle school who didn't know that meat was actually formally an animal. And so I proceeded to tell them with utter and complete confidence that I was like, okay, you guys, I don't know if you heard this, but I was listening to the radio this morning on NPR, and a lab in Sweden had just figured out how to grow bacon on trees. Congratulations, bacon is now considered a vegetable.
Vegan.
Exactly. And you would not, 100% of them, 25 8th graders, cheered and were like, yay, bacon's a vegetable, woohoo, 100% belief. And I was like, you guys, where does bacon come from? And 2 kids go, a pig? And I said, yeah, when was the last time you saw a pig grown on a tree? I'm like, never. And I said, bacon comes from pigs. You have to kill a pig to get bacon. That's the only way. They can't grow bacon on trees. And they all were like, but we believed you. You said it with such confidence. And I said, this is an important life lesson. Just because somebody says something with confidence doesn't mean it's true. Everything that you hear, be aware of where it comes from, and be aware of what they're trying to sell you. Right now, I'm trying to sell you confidence, because you as leaders, if you go out there and work with these kids today, and you're confident in your ability as a leader to infect change, to influence people, to be a better human being, they're gonna believe you. If you believe in those kids, if you believe with blind enthusiasm that they're gonna be the best damn group you've ever worked with in your entire life, I can guarantee they're gonna be the best damn group you've ever worked with in your entire life. They're gonna be the kids that are bacon that's grown on trees, and they will not know the difference. But if you go in there saying, well, I just guess it's gonna be okay, they're gonna feel that. So you gotta believe in these kids. You gotta believe in yourself. Just like I just told you that bacon is grown on trees, and you believe me. Because in my head, I literally saw a tree with bacon growing from it. In my mind, I believed it was true. And I told you that, and you believed me. Because I believed it. Even though I knew it was not true. So go out there, be a great leader, make the best day possible for the kids that you're serving. Be the best leader there is. Be the person that they go, I want to be like that kid someday. And make the world a better place. You guys ready? Let's go. And we rocked it. And that all stemmed from a conversation about meat grows on trees? No, it does not.
That's a good point. And I think about how how many adults will just believe the earth is flat because they saw a YouTube video. and at what point is there such a difference between adults and kids in the way that they view the world?
Mm-hmm. Adults are just bigger kids with bigger bank accounts, right? And the only reason I don't think the world is flat is because if it was, cats would have pushed everything off by now. I know that to be true.
Yeah.
I know that to be true. And since everything is not all the way off the world, I'm like, okay, the world has to be round. That's my logic. That's the only thing I got.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My cat's an asshole, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
Total assholes.
So talk about fly fishing.
Oh, man. I love fly fishing. It's one of the few things that I'm naturally good at. I'm very lucky. I don't know if I have a high skill set. I've got enough of a skill set to where I can put a fly where it generally needs to be, and I catch a decent amount of fish. And for me, it's more about being out in the woods. It's being out in nature. It's reading the water. I crave the water. I love the water. I grew up on the water, and for me, that's the most magical place there is. Whether that's on the water, in the water, or under the water, I love it all. And so I'm lucky that I live where I live, and there's plenty of rivers to fish. And so I have probably, I'd say realistically, 5 or 6 flies that I use on a consistent basis. And I just catch a lot of fish. And whether they're big or small, I really don't care. I just love catching fish. Mm-hmm. Love the experience. And I use generally really lightweight tackle, so everything feels like a monster. I can catch a 3-inch sunfish and feel like it's a 10-pound trout, right? And I'm having so much fun. And I just love being out in nature, exploring and experiencing and walking down rivers and picking up rocks and seeing what's on the bottom of a rock and going, I don't know what that bug is, but this fly kind of looks like it, so I'll just throw that on there and see what happens. And the experience of just casting, it's not static fishing like fishing with a bobber where you just throw something out, a worm on a hook, which I grew up doing and was really fun. But at the same time, fly fishing is an active experience. You have to be aware, you have to be present, you have to be in the moment and reading the water and seeing where the eddies are and where the water flows and thinking about pools and where would a fish hang out and how do I put a fly there and what's the presentation like? Is my knot good? You know, all these different things. Do I have the right length of leader? Like there's a science to fly fishing that is it's not intuitive, but there are people that can read the water but not know the fly. Mm-hmm. There are people that know the fly but don't know the water. And if you put those things together, now you've got a phenomenal guide. And if they can row, now you're like, oh my gosh, that's a living. You can make a living taking people and having this experience in nature that is unbelievable. So it's we have to kill to survive as humans. That's in our nature. It's how we eat. It's how we survive. Is we have to take something that is grown or produced and matured, and we have to consume it. We are consumers of our environment. The ability to fish is, I would say, not necessarily a leadership skill, but it goes into the realm of, can you provide for the tribe? And if you can provide for the tribe, that promotes you in the pecking order of importance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love fishing. My dad's a terrible fly fisherman, but I will say some of our greatest conversations have happened on the water and have happened in a boat when we're not catching anything, or happened while we're driving over to the Missouri for 6 hours in a car, and there's just us in the road and the things that we see, and the time spent with other people in the pursuit of a slimy little fish is unbelievable. And it's like some of the greatest relationships you can have: hunting, fishing, jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, where you struggle, because the struggle is different in all four of those realms, but it's still a struggle. It's still a group activity. And so I love the sport of fly fishing. I'm still mostly 99% catch and release kind of guy. Every once in a while, if I'm fishing a tiny stream and I'm out for a week or so, I will eat a fish that I catch. But most of the time it's like catch and release. And I just love it. It's the thrill of a fish taking something that you've created. And I'm a terrible tie flyer. I'm like really bad at it. But I have caught fish on flies that I've tied. So that's a big rewarding moment for me.
That's a really important point, and you touched on so many aspects that I thought that were so overlooked in today's society. Yeah, your ability to market to a fish. It proves you're a good marketer. You have scientifically studied the market of the fish. Mm-hmm. You know what they're wanting to bite on. This specific bug, yeah, maybe. I got something that's close to it. Yeah, okay. I'll throw it out there. But then you had to realize you had to perfect the cast. Oh. Because you can't just go out there and fly fish and be good at it. No. You had to perfect the roll cast. You had to perfect it in an open field.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
To get something, to try to move something. And then you think about, like, what is fly fishing in modern day? Well, it takes polymer, I guess. It takes some sort of a leader.
Yeah.
So, but you think about, like, getting that fish to hit, and you feel it all the way through the rod, and you feel it, and you're like, this is very primal. This is a primal thing that I have. I am accomplishing man's ultimate source of techne. Mm-hmm. My ability to create something and catch an animal in this mysterious flow of water.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've caught a lot of fish. I've not caught a lot of really big fish. It's a no wade in, only fishing from the shore. You cannot get in the water, and it's a tributary. And this, I mean, you can just see massive fish everywhere. Huge fish. I mean, these giant 26-inch plus trout that are like 10, 15 pounds. Huge trout. And you can cast to them all day long, and they don't care. They just don't care. Like, they're so fished that they're just like, it has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. And if you're not perfect, you're not going to catch fish. And I was standing across the river. It's not a very big estuary, not a very big body of water. And I remember I was standing there, and there were a few fly fishermen to my left, a couple across the river and downstream. And I looked down, and literally like 6 inches below my feet, right on the edge of the river, is a 24-inch trout. I could have just reached down and grabbed it. And this guy is fishing across from me. And all of a sudden, he just like, his rod just doubles over. And he gets real excited. And I pull out my phone, because I have my phone. Who doesn't have their phone, right? And I start recording him. And I record 3 videos. Video number 1 is him hooking into the fish, starting to bring it in. Video number 2 is part 2 of the battle. And video number 3 is him landing this fish. And it's a 30-inch rainbow trout.
That's good.
It is the biggest rainbow trout I've ever seen in my life. And I'm standing 30 feet across from a river, and I'm cheering, and he's cheering. And I got a picture of him, and he's holding the fish like a salmon in his arms. And he's like, woo! He's so excited. And I'm so excited. I have no idea what the guy's name is. And he's holding the fish, and I'm taking the video, and I'm taking pictures, and he puts the fish back in the water, and he's like, I've been fishing here for 30 years. 30 years. He goes, that's the biggest fish I've ever caught out of this river. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's your phone number? I'll send you the videos. And he shouts his phone number across the river, and I'm in the middle of central Washington. I literally send him a text, 3 videos of him catching the fish of his life. Now, that's a piece of connection. I can't remember his name. Honest to God, I can't remember his name. I remember his face. I remember his smile, the grin, the shouts of excitement and joy. I remember him standing there with a fish in his arms. I have no idea what his name is, but I could look through my cell phone, and I could probably find him because I sent him the pictures of the fish. And I'm like, that moment of connection, like being on the river with another human being, as they had the moment of their life and I got to be a part of it, was absolutely magical. And that's fly fishing. That's jujitsu. That's CrossFit. That's the communities that you build in whatever it is you do. If you can be a part of a story where somebody goes, this was one of the greatest moments of my life, and these people were there, and it was absolutely unbelievable. That's the pinnacle of being awesome. I think that's the best thing about being human is we can be there for each other. We can be a part of each other's stories. Whether it's the mundane, this person was there when I was having the worst day of my life. You will always remember that person, I guarantee it. This person was there on the absolute best day of my life. You're always going to remember that person. That person was there just every day. My gosh, I remember them. That's awesome. Just be there.
Go. And so talk more. So the big brown trout. My grandpa and his brother used to catch massive brown trout over in Montana.
Okay, I got to ask, where at in Montana?
Oh, I couldn't tell you where. I know near Anaconda.
Oh, okay. I know Anaconda. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. I have not fished that area yet, but so I have a dream of someday writing a book called Fishing the I-90. And the goal would be to take a cross-country trip from Seattle to New York, and you can only fish within 30 minutes of I-90. And you just record it. Because I know from like Seattle just to eastern Washington, northern Idaho, like western Montana, there is some world-class fly fishing within 30 minutes of I-90. Like, it is unbelievable. I have no idea what the middle of the country is like, but I know when you start to get back east, there's a lot of places you can go fly fish. And so I always think that'd be really, really fun to go and fish those areas. I got a brother-in-law who's actually got a place on the Missouri River in Montana, and oh my gosh, I fished there a couple of times, and it's just unbelievable. It's where I've caught the biggest fish in my life, the most fish in my life, and where I go, literally January, it's cold as hell. Like, you can only do like 2 or 3 casts, and then you have to knock the ice out of your eyelets on the rod, and you're catching fish, and there's still bugs There's bugs on like literally hatches on the water in January, and it's like 12 degrees outside, and there's bugs hatching. And so they're everywhere. And so you get this really weird, there's so much food to eat for the fish that the fish are gigantic and they're everywhere. But they're also fished highly, so you have to be very aware and you have to present very well for the fish to take your fly. And so it's a challenging river, but it's a really fun river. And so I love that river, and I've always had adventures over there. And my dog fell in the ice once, and
Oh no.
that was my old German short hair. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he crawled himself out. I was like, good job, come with me. And I dried him off as much as I could. I put him in the car, and I'm in rural Montana, and I start the car, put the heat on, and he just curled up in a little pile in the back and just stayed warm. And I'm not kidding, I came back like 5 hours later, and he was still asleep in the exact same spot. He hadn't moved. And I touched him, and he was warm. And then he woke up, then he ran outside, went to the bathroom, came back, curled up in the exact same spot.
What a dog.
He was the best dog. My current dog would probably just have swam across the river and died. She's a spaz.
Yeah, that's the thing about those German short hairs is my dad had one. We grew up with German short hairs, but his latest one was a chicken killer.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And she disappeared. So probably because she was killing too many chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a toxic relationship with this chicken killing dog that my dad would have to cover for its crimes. It was almost like a sitcom, right? Yeah.
Okay, so my current dog is a chicken killer. I'll say that out loud.
Killer.
I love my neighbors. We've been neighbors for a very long time, and they've always had chickens. My old German short hair would literally go into their backyard, walk around the chickens, no big deal. Just like the chickens, they would come out in the front yard. My dog would herd them into the backyard. Didn't care about chickens. Loved pheasant, loved quail, loved chuckers, was a bird dog to the bone, but could care less about chickens. My current dog will murder 1,000,000 of them. And she, like, for some reason, I think their son, I'm 100% sure it was their son. He left their gate open, and their last chicken. Now, by the way, I have saved dozens of their chickens from frickin' raccoons. I've run out there with pellet guns and shot at them, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm out there screaming, like, stop killing the fucking chickens. Like, I'm yelling at nature to knock it off. And they have this old chicken, and this chicken wanders out into the front yard and wanders over towards my property, and I let my dog out, and usually my dog runs to the bushes to my neighbor on the right. And she runs over and she checks those birds, and then all of a sudden her head just like whips around, and her eyes just shrink down. Mm-hmm. And I go, ah, shit. And I see her just dead sprint, take off, tail up towards my neighbor's house. And I'm like, ah, no, come on. And by the time I took like the 6 steps down from my like porch to the garage, to the end of the garage, I turn around and I look, and she's over there, and she's got the chicken in her mouth.
Yep.
And I scream at her. I'm like, drop it. And she just kind of goes and lets the chicken go. And God bless it, the chicken just kind of shakes itself off and runs into the backyard.
Alive.
And I turn and I shut the gate, and I grab my dog, I put her in the truck, and I take her out, and we go running.
Good.
30 minutes into my run.
Good, you're running. This is important to do with dogs.
Very important to do with dogs. My neighbor sends me a text message that says, your dog killed my chickens.
Of course.
And I'm like,
oh my God.
Shit. So I text him and I say, hey, here's what happened. Chicken was fine. I told her to drop it. She dropped it. Chicken ran into the backyard. I shut the gate. Your chicken was in the front yard on our like, your chicken actually was on our driveway when it happened. I can't be sure if the chicken was on our driveway or if the dog brought it to the driveway, but When I saw it, the chicken was on our driveway. And so the chicken ran to the backyard. And the chicken was fine. And he goes, well, the chicken's dead now. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Let me know what we can do to help. And this is the oldest chicken they have. This chicken's like 12 years old. I don't know how long chickens live. Maybe it's 6 years old. I have no idea. It's at the end of its chicken life. Okay? It's not going to live longer. There's no way it's going to live more than like another 6 months. And he goes, actually, I'm really glad because I hate those fucking chickens. We're all happy the chickens are gone. That was the last one. And I was like, oh, thank God. His wife, not so happy. She was so mad. She was so mad at us. For like the longest time, she's like, you assholes, your dog killed my chicken. And it's like, I saved a dozen of your chickens from the damn raccoons because you wouldn't build a fucking fence. And I'm like, come on. Like, I can't win. How do I win this? And I adore my neighbors. I love them. They're the greatest people. But like, shit, dude. You got one chicken you love, and it's the one chicken that survived the like dozen attacks on your chickens because you couldn't build a fence. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I give up. So they no longer have chickens, but we still have the dog. and she gets yelled at for being a chicken killer.
You know what? You just made me think of a new show. Like, your dog killed my chickens. And it's like a fucking Judge Judy court case. And you're talking about everything you just said. If he
could you imagine Judge Judy sitting up there like, did your dog kill the chicken? Yes. Guilty. But wait, the chicken was on my property. Not guilty. But the chicken was like innocent. Guilty. But the chicken was on my property. Not guilty. Like, she can't make up her mind. She doesn't give two shits. She's just looking for viewership.
She's just like a chicken trying to cross the road. She don't know no better. But you just listen to the people's stories of neighbors bitching at each other. Your dog killed my chickens. I want money for my chickens. My chickens are prize-winning chickens. They won blue ribbon at the fair. Fuck you, your chicken shouldn't win no blue ribbon at the fair, bitch. My chickens are the best chickens in the world. My dog ain't no chicken killer. Everybody knows that.
Oh, no.
The hell, your dog ain't no chicken killer.
Oh, no, my dog's a chicken killer. My dog will kill your chickens.
You don't admit it, your dog's a chicken killer.
She is straight up cold-blooded murderer. Yep. No. Oh my gosh, no! I would probably actually watch that show.
Yeah, right. It's a good premise.
That on entertainment value alone would be a freaking riot. That would be funny as shit. I would watch that show. And see, but that's where creativity comes in.
Because my dad's dogs killed a lot of chickens. I know it's real shit. Everybody wants chickens. Everybody wants dogs, and this is gonna happen.
There's okay. So I have to tell people that if you start to go out in nature, you will start to discover that nature's not always cute and cuddly. Like, there's some real shit that happens. Mm-hmm. And I was hiking behind our house on the Canfield Mountain Trail system, and I'm not kidding, like maybe 100, 150 yards out, just outside of the parking lot, the upper parking lot. So there's two parking lots, and they close the upper parking lot for winter because you can't get up, and like cars have fallen down the ravine and it's like a pain in the ass to get them out. So they close it off in the winter. I go up there in the spring after they've opened the gate, and I'm parked up there, and it's just me all by myself. And I go up and I'm hiking back down. So I took a different route. So I go up the mountain and then I come back around the trail towards the parking lot, and I find, like, I'm not kidding, bloody murder. Mm-hmm. Like, it is a probably 10 foot wide by about 15 foot long, just blood splatter everywhere, carnage. And I'm like, something probably died here. And I'm going, my dog's going crazy. She's running around smelling things, and she'd been going crazy for about 15 minutes. She knew. She could smell it. And I'm like, what is happening? I keep looking around for signs, and then I started to see blood droplets. And I'm like, oh, okay, something got cut. And then I start to see more blood, and I'm like, no, something got slashed. Something's bleeding hard. And then I come upon this spot where it's just carnage. And I'm like, something died right here. And I have no clue what it is. I just see blood everywhere. And my dog is running around. She's going crazy. And I'm like, this is fresh. This is a brand new kill. This is within maybe an hour and a half, because the blood is not congealed. It's still pooled. It's not dried over. There's no film on top. I'm like, this is a fresh kill. And I'm kind of like, okay, this is kind of weird. It's kind of strange. And I decide I'm going to call the game warden and say, hey, I found this. There's something died up here. I don't know what, but you could come look at it because it's early spring and there's a lot of blood. Like, you should probably check it out. I think maybe a deer or something was killed up here. And I don't know if it's a human that killed it or what, but there's a mess. And I get my dog home, and the game warden calls me 2 hours later and goes, yeah, we found the dog. And I go, wait, what do you mean you found the dog? And he goes, oh, yeah, that mess you found, that was a dog. And I was like, I'm sorry, that was a dog? And he goes, yeah, it was about 15 feet below the trail. There was like a little, I was like, my dog was sniffing down there. My dog was right on top of the dog carcass that a cougar had buried.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I was like, I came up on a cougar, literally right on a cougar kill, 150 yards out of the parking lot where hundreds of people go all the time. And there was a cougar kill right there. And my dog found it. I mean, I saw the carnage that was whatever was left of the dog. By the way, I could not tell that what was left was a dog. I had no idea. But the carcass was about 15 feet off trail. My dog found it and was just like all over it. But I called her up and she came back to me and she was like, she kept wanting to go back. And I was like, no, come back, come with me. And yeah, that was somebody's pet that a cougar had gotten. And Mother Nature is a son of a bitch. It is not pretty. It is not the Disney version. It is not cute. And if you think about it, when people go, oh, why would you hunt? Hunting is a much cleaner, faster, less painful death than nature. Because animals don't grow old to a ripe old age. That's not something that happens. Mother Nature is a violent bitch, and it will kill you. Mm-hmm. Violently and scarily. Like, it is terrifying to watch and see Mother Nature in action. Like, most people don't know. Like, they're like, oh, what are you most scared of? Are you scared of bears? I'm not scared of bears. I like, most of the times when I encounter bears in the woods, it's black bears. Mm-hmm. And they're not big ones. In North Idaho, we don't have really huge black bears. Like, we maybe get 200 pounds. Now, I'm 225 pounds. A 200-pound black bear could eviscerate me in seconds. I have zero chance against a bear, right? But if I make noise, 100% of the time I've encountered black bears, they run away. Mm-hmm. They are terrified. They just off into the woods. I scare them. They don't scare me. Moose, those things are freaking terrifying. Yeah. They're massive. They're huge. They're huge and they're fast. And people don't realize how incredibly gigantic and quick a moose is. Mm-hmm. And a moose does not care.
No, they don't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck.
No.
And moose are terrifying.
Because, I mean, mama moose has to fight, like, giving birth to, like, a grizzly trying to eat its calf.
Yeah.
Like, they're mean as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
They don't give a fuck. They'll kill humans.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, you're right. It's a mean, cruel world that we do a really good job of separating us from them.
Disneyfy it.
Disneyfy the fuck out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, the scariest things I've ever encountered in the woods are moose.
Yes.
The second most scary are cougars. Because, I mean, you think about a cat. When a cat gets on your leg and it starts, like, doing its little kneading claw thing, that hurts. Mm-hmm. Add 200 pounds, and now you're talking about a cougar. Mm-hmm. 150 to 200 pound cat. That is scary. Those things are freaking animals. They can run straight up a tree, and they can pounce on you, and you don't know it's over.
And they kill humans every year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just like, whatever. Nobody really cares.
Right. Yeah. It's not a lot of them, but those are the things that are like, those are terrifying. Yeah. Because I've seen cougars in the wild. They are, first of all, I mean, they're gorgeous. They are majestic and beautiful and gorgeous. And they are probably one of the scariest things, other than moose, because I've encountered moose dozens of times in the mountains. And every single time I see one, I'm like, oh shit, I'm not in my element. I am in trouble. And I always put a tree between me and the moose. And I usually have my dog with me. And my dog, thank God, it's like, it's not a chicken. I should probably run away. And my dog is just like, woo, gone, which I'm grateful for. And I mean, the closest I ever came was my old dog, my old German short hair, who was just freaking awesome. I loved him. His name was Seamus. We were just hiking in the woods, and it was a winter time, and there was a nice fresh snow, and it was powdery, and you could walk without any sound, and it was gorgeous. And I was way off trail in the mountains, and my dog started acting weird, and I'm like, what's going on? This is kind of strange. And I came around a copse of bushes, and I'm probably 10 feet away from a cow and a calf. And I'm like, oh shit, this is really bad. And luckily the wind was blowing towards me. So the blowing, like she didn't smell me. And I'm 10 feet away from the ass end of a moose with a calf. And they're both looking away from me. And I'm like, holy shit, I need to leave. And I'm very slowly, as quietly as I can, start to go out the way I came. And I walk like 2 steps and I turn and look. I walk 2 steps, turn and look. Walk 2 steps, turn and look. And for 30 minutes, I literally go maybe 50 yards up a hill. As I 2 steps, look, every 2 steps I stop and look to make sure this moose isn't going to trounce me. Because I've got maybe a dozen trees between me and the trail. And I'm like, that's the closest, probably the closest to death I've come from a wildlife animal in nature that where I'm like, I could have really legitimately died. Because I don't stand a chance against a moose. There's nothing I can do. It's 1,000 pounds of mother anger coming at me. And a moose can run at 35 miles an hour or more and turn on a dime. What am I going to do? Literally nothing. And it was gorgeous and glorious and terrifying all at the same time. And it was just beautiful. And I was like, as soon as I got about 50 yards away, me and my dog, we probably ran for 15 minutes. We're like, let's go. And we just took off. We just started running. Now, my running is not fast because I'm not a big guy and I don't run fast. But I still was like, let's run. Let's get out of here. And we ran. And after 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, we're okay. We're going to be fine.
15 minutes.
And then I stopped and I literally sat on the side of this trail and I was like, oh, that was unbelievable. How many times am I going to have that moment in my life where I'm seconds from death? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it's this glorious, beautiful moment that very few people get to see. Very few people. And you think about a lot of people have been close to death. And some people realize it and some people don't. Mm-hmm. But how many of those moments that are close to death are also oh my gosh, this was glorious and beautiful? I would guess very few of those moments. Most of those moments are holy shit, I almost died. And I've had those moments, but they've not been glorious and beautiful. And so that experience of nature, of being outdoors, of being a part of this incredible world that we live in, we've gotten away from that, and people just don't understand it. They don't see it. They don't experience it on a regular basis of this outdoor world, this outside of the walls, outside of the windows, outside of the doors is absolutely incredible wherever you're at. Like, I can go to LA and I've got friends. I actually have a friend who lived in LA and they didn't realize that there were mountains because they're like, I've never seen the mountains. And they lived there for like 5 years. And all of a sudden a wind came through and all this fog and smog blew away and they could see the mountains outside of LA. And they're like, there's mountains here? I didn't know there were mountains here. And I was like, yeah, there's a whole mountain range right there. That's incredible. You can go up in those mountains and there's some cool, awesome adventures you can have. Watch out for rattlesnakes and shit that'll kill you. But yeah, there's some really cool moments out there that you can have in the woods, in the desert. Like, go experience it, live it. Like, see what's out there. Because the world is an incredible place. I don't know. I love it.
There's gold in them hills.
There's gold in there hills.
Yeah.
Yes, there are.
San Angelo or whatever. Yeah, either way, my buddy found some gold up there. There is. No, you're right. That's important to leave your comfort zone, to blossom where you're planted, to realize the beauty before the danger. And that's something I realized even when I was 19 years old, fighting in my first firefight in Najaf, the holy Shiite city. I thought, oh damn, this is what everybody wants to be in. This is what everybody talks about. And there's a part of me that thought, oh fuck, you better embrace this. There's a part of me that thought, survive. And then when I was in Afghanistan, looking out over the just acres of blossoming poppies, and you think, wow, what a beautiful flower field that everybody's dying for. And it's like, you're right. The beauty in the chaos, the yin before the yang, that is something that others don't quite experience, but I think it's an important facet to life. Yeah.
And it's so funny you mentioned that. I didn't serve in the military. I tried to go in the military, and they gave me a medical disqualification before I even started. They're like, sorry, you don't have arches. You can't be in the military. Which I'm actually grateful for, because I realized many years later that I can hike about 10 miles and then I'm done. After that, I'm like, my hamstrings cramp up, my legs cramp up. I become a liability, not an asset. And so I'm like, I know that about myself. I'm grateful for that now, because I would have loved to serve in the military. But my grandmother, and I had no clue, none at all, when I was a kid. She had these beautiful flowers in her backyard, a big whole like garden of them, and they were poppies. And she told me when she was a kid, she's like, oh yeah, these are poppies. And I said, oh, they're really pretty. And she goes, yeah, they're beautiful and they're poisonous. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, you can take the poppies and you can cut them and they'll bleed. And when you take that turns into heroin. And my grandmother in the early 80s is telling me, I have a whole garden of these heroin flowers. And I was like, oh, and she's like, yes, and I have a bunch of them. I'm like, and that never occurred to me until many years later, when I was like, wait a minute, my grandmother had a whole garden of these poppies. And she's like, and they're beautiful flowers. She loved them. I mean, she was all about nature. She had trained hummingbirds that she would sit there in her window and she'd just put her hand out and the hummingbirds would come and land on her finger because they were so used to her. And she would become a part of their world because that was what she loved. She was like, I love watching them, and I'll put the food out for them. And I would sit there for days on end with my arm out the window just like this. And she goes, and it took time and patience, and eventually they learned that they can trust me. And it just, now she just walks to the window, she puts her arm out the window, puts her hand out, and the hummingbirds just come and land right on her finger. And I was like always fascinated with that. But I think about how many days, weeks, months that she stood there in her window with her arm hanging out the window, just waiting for a hummingbird to come land on her finger. And she would put the feeder up, and she would put the feeder up, and she put the dedication that it took for her to train a wild animal to trust me, that if I just put my finger out, you can come sit on my finger. And I'll just sit here. And she'd be fully present the whole time. She wouldn't answer the phone. She wouldn't answer the door. She would sit in her window with her finger out, arm on the door, on the windowsill, and just wait for a bird to come land on her finger. And I'm like, I don't have that patience. I don't have that. And I know for a fact my kids don't have that. And what's the next generation going to have? Where are the people that are going to sit there and wait for a hummingbird to land on their finger?
And that's why the generation of Disney princesses are going away.
Yeah.
Because you need those girls to hold out their fingers for the birds to come. Because that's what it takes to be a Disney princess, I guess. Like that girl who's stuck in a tower, you got nothing better to do than hold her finger out, wait for
You're
a bird.
so bored that you have to sit there and wait for a bird to come land on your finger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But gone are the days of boredom.
Yep. That's true. And that's a good way to end it. So, Geoff, sir, where can people find you? It's been 3 hours.
Oh, man. This is awesome, man. I freaking love this, by the way. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This is
Time
good
flies
times.
when you have fun.
Okay. Now I'm trying to think of when can we do another one? When can we
Okay,
think about the next
You're a
one? Like, what do we want to do?
Great conversationalist.
They can find me at most of the social media platforms, Geoff at professionalsatplay.com.
Okay.
That's my email. And then www.professionalsatplay.com is my website. And then I believe I'm on Instagram, and that's at professionalsatplay. And then LinkedIn is Geoff Professionals at Play. And those are the only socials I'm on. I got kicked off Facebook. That's another story.
Okay, so you guys heard it all. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for more data-driven updates. Bye!
Peace.
Oh.